Hey guys, tonight we slip into a smoky longhouse before dawn and let the cold press against your cheeks while the fire gives off its slow, red breath. You wake on a straw bed under rough wool. The roof beams loom like dark ribs. Smoke drifts up and refuses to leave, so your eyes sting in a cozy, not so cozy way. Outside, frost grips the ground. Inside, warmth pools close to the hearth and fades fast at the edges. You reach for the day, and it goes back with splinters and ash. Quick reality check. For most of us, you probably won't survive this week of early mornings, deep cold, and endless chores. But hey, you're here now, so let's try. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your breath makes soft clouds in the half-dark. The longhouse is one long room, warm in the middle, chilly at the ends. The central hearth sleeps, a red heart under ash. You sit up slowly, careful not to wake the little ones curled like commas beside you. A sheep shifts beyond the low wooden divider. Hoofs thud, then settle. In winter, people and animals share a roof like polite roommates. It sounds odd until you feel how much heat a cow makes. You do not complain. Your feet find the floor, cold like a wet stone. You hiss a little, then grin at yourself. The cat blinks from a beam and judges your life choices. The smell in here is a whole story. Peat smoke, wool old fish, damp leather, sweet hay, and the sharp scent of iron. You know each line by heart. You reach for the small box with flint and steel. Your hands know where it waits even in the dark. You tap steel to flint. Snap. Sparks dance and fade. You catch one on a bit of dry fungus and blow slow and soft. The ember brightens like an eye. You fold it into a twist of straw and blow again. You blow like you're trying to cool soup the size of a village. A snake of flame slides up, shy at first, then brave. You feed it slivers of wood. The light grows, shadows jump. Your shoulders drop a little. There, a fire to start the day. You lay a flat stone and set a small pot near the coals, not for coffee. Your coffee maker would ask for a coat and then cry. Warm water is a gift in this world. You count out the breaths between the drips inside the pot. Drip, drip. Your day will be built out of tiny sounds like that. You pull on your wool dress and apron in the low glow. The cloth smells like smoke and lanolin. You slide your feet into shoes that remember yesterday's mud. A leather thong ties quickly. You keep your hair out of the way. One long braid is easier when your hands are full, which is always. You keep your voice low, a hush for sleeping housemates and a nod to old habits. Loud voices in the dark feel like bad luck. You glance up at the roof. The smoke goes nowhere in a hurry. Some houses have a small vent, while others just let smoke find its way through the thatch. Historians still argue whether there was a proper smoke hole in most places or if the roof leaked the fumes out at its rate. Either way, your eyes water by breakfast, and your hair smells like campfire for the rest of your life. Good news. Everyone else smells the same. One true thing lives in the timbers around you. Many Norse homes kept people and animals under one roof in winter, with the hearth in the middle and sleeping benches along the walls. The byre end, with stalls, is warmer than any fancy blanket you could weave. It is also louder. Cows talk in their sleep. So do men. You learn to love the sound or, at the very least, make peace with it. You stir the pot with a stick and recheck the embers. You think about the work ahead. Water, grain, animals, cloth, a dozen small fires to keep alive until night. Not yet. Right now, there is the soft part. The room is gray like fog. A child whimpers, dreaming. You pat a shoulder, hum once, and the dream lets go. You brush ash from your dress and feel the grit on your palms. Ash never leaves. It sneaks into seams and under nails and down into voice and story. It is the color of this hour. You listen. Wind pushes at the boards. The turf roof muffles the gusts, but the house feels them like a big animal lifting its head. Snow might come, or rain. or both because the sky loves drama. You plan the day around that, the way sailors read waves. Cold will slow hands, so you line up the work in your head. You will need light. You tuck that thought away and watch the coals. A small, odd custom still lives in your mind from your mother. Never let the fire die. But if it does, borrow living coals from a neighbor in a lidded pot. It is a friendly shame. You nod at the door as if promising not to walk that road. Quirky, yes, but true. Striking a fire is not hard. Keeping it is an art. The house knows your art. It shows you by glowing back. You touch the main post with 2 fingers. A habit. A greeting. Some call the post the spine of the house. Some whisper thanks here, to the place that holds up the roof to whatever listens. You do not say the name out loud. Names are for later, when night thickens and stories feel brave enough to stretch. On the low shelf sit a few carved spoons and a small lamp. You trim the wick and set it aside. Fat burns with a sleepy flame, slow and steady. You look down the row of sleeping shapes. You count without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, all accounted for. Your heart unclenches. It does that every morning, then pretends it did not. The cat stretches and crosses the rafters like a tightrope walker who will not take notes on the experience. A moth, fooled by the warm air, flutters once and disappears. You laugh through your nose. That counts as a laugh this early. A boot thumps in the corner. You turn, listen only with settling. The house is old, but you know its mood. Talks and creaks, and you understand the language. Later today, you will ask the sky for mercy, the ground for kindness, and the animals for patience. Right now, all you ask is for this fire to wake up faster. You sit near the hearth, palms out, and let heat crawl into your fingers. The work is heavy, but not every moment is. There is a sweet pause here, the kind you miss when the sun stands high and the chores run you like a bossy ant. You sip warm water and pretend it tastes like something fancy. Tastes like water. Tastes perfect. You stand and shift the pot to the edge. The cat lands with a soft thud and threads around your legs like smoke with opinions. You step over a sleeping dog. You do not trip. You call that victory. 3 small victories before sunrise count as a feast. Speaking of feasts, the scent of dried fish nearby is strong enough to tell stories on its own. You move it farther from the heat and smile. No surprises later. You lift the bar from the door but do not open it yet. The night holds its breath on the other side. You give it 1 more minute. Frost will fight your cheeks. Stars, if they still hang, will feel close enough to touch. The path to the well is rutted. Your mind walks it while your body waits in warmth. A little fear pricks your ribs. Not dramatic fear, just the usual drip of worry that you live with in a place where 1 slip means a bruise and 1 storm means a bad week. You tuck the fear under your belt. You have better things to carry. When you finally ease the door open, air like new iron slips in. The dark is a deep blue. The roof lines of other halls sit like ships in a quiet sea. Somewhere, a rooster thinks about having an opinion. You smile and shut the door again softly. The house holds the heat a little longer while you gather yourself. In a moment, the day will begin. You will step into it without fanfare. No trumpet, just your steady breath, the hush of wool against wool, and the slight flare of flame as you feed the hearth 1 more slice of wood. You press your hands once more toward the heat, then stand tall. You are the one who moves the first piece in this long, slow game. You are ready. You rake the coals once more before you go. The fire needs a little nudge, like a sleepy friend who swears 5 more minutes will fix everything. You pull the ash back, set a slab of turf on top, and let it breathe. Banked like that, it will keep a slow heart until you return. Your fingers tingle. They do not love mornings either. They file a complaint with HR Heart Resources and you ignore it. You lift the latch and step out. The dark tastes like iron. Your breath fogs, then drifts away in thin ribbons. Frost crunches under your shoes, loud as bones snapping twigs. The sky is a deep blue that almost hurts. A few stars hang on like kids who do not want to leave the party. The wind nips your ears. You pull your cloak tight and wish the cloak pulled you. You grab the wooden yoke from its peg by the door. 2 buckets hang from it, old and honest. The handles bite your palm like small, grumpy crabs. You smile anyway. Water first. Always water first. The well waits by the fence where the ground dips. You walk the worn path, toes finding every rut you already know. You set your heel, then roll forward. The way your mother taught you. Save your knees now. You will need them later. A rooster across the yard clears his throat and then decides against it. Even he thinks it is early. From a shed, a sheep coughs in that dusty, sheep way. You hum back a note, soft and low. Calms you both. Snow dusts the fence rails and turns the world into a row of crisp lines. Your hair pricks with cold. You tuck a strand under your braid and keep going. The well rim is rimmed in white. You brush it with your sleeve and wince at the chill. You lower the bucket by rope. The rope is stiff, but it still knows its one trick. You hear the bucket kiss ice, then crack through. The sound is sharp and sweet. You raise the bucket and breathe on your hands while you wait. The water shines like a dark mirror. Smells clean and hard. You pour it into the carry buckets and hear the first drip hit the wood. That sound is hope in this hour. You do it again and again. You balance the yoke across your shoulders. Presses on that one spot that always complains. Your straw-stuffed shoes, yes, you jam clean straw inside for insulation. Make a soft hush on the path. Quirky, sure, but it works. Your toes thank you in tiny squeaks. You step carefully on the way back. Do not spill. Do not slip, the buckets swing. You counter the swing with your hips, a dance you do every day. You can do it half asleep, but not today. The ground is both mean and beautiful. You reach the door, and most of the water is still inside the buckets. Victory number 4, and the sun has not even shown its face yet. Inside, you set one bucket by the hearth and one by the byre door. The heat from the banked fire greets the cold water with a hiss like a polite hello. You roll your shoulders. Then you head to the animals. The byre end is warmer from the animals' breath and bodies. It smells like hay, wet earth, and that sweet, sour scent you can name with your eyes closed. You move slowly so you do not startle anyone. You touch the first stall post as you pass. A little tap that says, "I am here." You count heads. Cows blink at you, long lashes rimed with frost from their breath. Sheep shift and settle. The goat gives you a look that says all your choices are suspect. Goats always run the meeting. You check the latches, the ropes, and the boards. Your hands know every knot. You run your palm down a flank and feel the heat like a stove. You press a little, checking for ribs or swell. Everyone looks well enough. You scoop fresh hay into the racks, mindful not to dump too much. Waste is your enemy. You shake the hay to fluff it. Dust rises in tiny storms, then falls back like tired snow. You break the ice in the water trough with a stick, then ladle in the fresh water. The cows nudge forward, then drink in deep, happy pulls. A sheep sneezes and startles itself. You grin. You cannot help it. You scrape old bedding into a pile with a flat shovel. Your back complains, then shuts up when you ignore it. You carry the muck to the heap outside and toss it with a practiced swing. Later, this heap will feed the field. For now, it steams in the cold like a dragon that ate grass for dinner. Here is a plain, true thing. Many longhouses kept the animals at one end and people at the other, with a slight slope and a shallow drain to carry liquid out. Stone or wood line some drains to keep the floor from turning into a swamp. You can feel the slope under your feet as you work. It is a slight design touch that saves you from wet ankles on a bad day. You pause and listen. A calf sucks at nothing in its sleep and makes little smacks. You feel your chest soften. You check hooves for chips, glance at a few tails, and look for signs of chewing on wood. Bored animals do that. You rub a nose that is too bold and get a warm, damp blow on your wrist. Badge of honor. You wipe it on your apron and keep moving. You lift your lamp and check the far stall. The beam finds a loose peg. You press it tight and make a note to fix it properly after breakfast. Your mind keeps lists the way the sea keeps waves. There is always another. You do not mind. Lists mean forward. Forward means day. You add a little straw to the duck pen, then check the hen roost. You have not taken eggs yet. That will come when the light lifts. You make sure everyone is where you left them. A hen dreams with her beak tucked under her wing and makes a sound like someone telling a secret. You whisper back that the secret is safe. You stop at the doorway and look over the whole bar one more time. You count again. Count, count, count. The rhythm steadies your chest. The cat from the rafters drops to the byre fence and sits with that inspector face. You salute. The cat blinks once, which in cat law is a written sign-off. Back at the hearth, you warm your hands over the turf and wood. You pour a dipper of water into a clay cup and sip. It is just warm enough to make your tongue believe. You close your eyes for a breath. If you had a mirror, your cheeks would be pink and your hair would be a map of small escapes from your braid. You smooth it back. You lay out a few tools for the next rounds. A small brush for mud. A clean cloth. A little full-fat salve for cracked skin. Not for you. For teats and noses and places that chafe in the cold. You will use it later. Not yet. You keep it near the heat so it stays soft. You glance toward the door again. The blue outside is a shade lighter. You can see the fence posts as dark teeth in a pale mouth. This is the hour where it feels like the world might stay this way forever, all edge and hush. It will not, of course. The day is pushy. It always arrives. You sweep the hearthstones with a birch twig broom. Twigs pop and make a sound like tiny fireworks. The floor looks better in one stroke. You always like that part. Quick wins are rare, like comets and quiet toddlers. You enjoy them when they pass. Here's a strange, small thing people do not always know. Some folks keep a spare bucket upside down near the door and tap it before leaving. A habit like knocking on wood. You tap yours now. You are not sure when you learned it. You do it and feel your shoulders drop half an inch. Quirky works if it works. You pour a little water on a cloth and wipe the table where you will set the bowls. You put a pot near the edge of the fire for later. The cat noses the rim and makes a face like you served it insult soup. You laugh once. That is joke number 2. You are on a roll. You listen for the village. A gate creaks somewhere. A dog barks once, then thinks better of it. A woman's voice carries on the cold. A soft call to a cow with a name. You respond with a friendly word you don't remember choosing. The sound makes you feel less alone in the gray. Historians still argue whether most farms had wells or relied on streams and springs nearby. In some places, the ground is rock or the water is bad. In others, a well is the center of the yard like a sun. You have a well. You still walk to the stream in summer when the well runs low. You won't be thinking about summer yet. You are too busy not slipping on your doorstep. You recheck the banked fire and tuck in a thin stick to wake it a little more. Flame takes it slow and sure. You nod to it like a deal just closed. The house warms by a breath. The room moves from iron cold to just plain cold. That counts. You slide your feet, feel the straw shift inside your shoes, and smile at the crunch. It is like carrying a small field with you wherever you go. You reach for the door bar and pause. You think about the following tasks. Many, yes, but not all at once. First, you will carry a bit more water while the path is still firm. Then you will check on that loose peg. Then you will wake the little ones with a silly song, making them laugh before they even argue. Then the real flood of work will start. You draw a breath, slow and deep. The longhouse holds that breath with you. For a beat, the world is still. Then you move again, quiet as a fox and twice as busy. You set a wide pot on the coals and pour in water from the bucket that still holds the dawn's chill. A few handfuls of cracked barley follow. You use your hand like a measuring cup, because your hand is the only measuring cup that never gets lost. Pinch of salt. Stir with a wooden spoon. The spoon has a nick shaped like a tiny crescent moon. You always line that nick up with the pot's rim, because small orders help make big days. Smoke lifts in lazy ropes. It finds your eyes at once, like a clingy cousin at a wedding. You blink and let your lashes collect a little soot. Free eyeliner, courtesy of your house. It stings, but it is the tax you pay to eat warm food. The cat sneezes on a beam and gives you a look that says, same. Grinding comes next. You lift the corn's top stone with a small grunt and seat it back on the pivot. Grain goes into the eye of the stone. Your right hand takes the wooden handle. Around you go, slow circles wait over your hips. The stones whisper and rasp. The sound is a soft saw cutting the morning into tidy slices. The smell rises, nutty and warm. Flour dust floats up and makes halos in the firelight. You don't feel holy, but your arms feel like they've joined a gym. Leg day? No. Today is arm day every day. Here is a plain fact from many digs and old farms. Corn stones like this sit in Viking homes across the north. Barley was the prominent grain in many places. People made porridge and flatbread so often that the upper back and shoulders of the corn owner might tell the story without words. Teeth do too. A little grit from stone gets into flour. Over the years, it wears the chewing edges down like the tide on rock. You keep a mouthful of grit jokes in your head and tell none of them out loud. You lift the top stone and brush the meal into a bowl. You tip some into the porridge pot, the rest you save for bread. The pot gives a little burp. It is a friendly sound until it is not. Porridge has two moods, kind or volcanic. You stand close enough to stir and far enough to dodge. Safety first, breakfast second. You set a flat slab near the coals. Soapstone, smooth and gray. It soaks up heat like a seal takes sun. You call it the good stone because it rarely burns anything you love. You rake the fire so coals sit under and around it. You want steady heat, not drama. The air smells like warm stone, barley, and smoke. Your stomach answers with a noise that would embarrass a bear. You pull out the dough bowl. You add a splash of warm water and a pinch of salt to the meal. You smear in a scrap of yesterday's dough. You save that little bit each day. It brings a tiny lift and a friendly tang. You poke it, pokes back, like a sleepy pet. You will not say you gave it a name, but in your head it is old Bubbles. You mix with your hand. The dough is soft and sticky at first, then smooth. You fold and press, fold and press. Your palm leaves prints like small waves in wet sand. Historians still argue whether daily bread here rose much at all, or if most homes kept it flat for speed and grain's sake. You do both, depending on time and luck. Today is a flat day. You pinch off balls and flatten them in your palm. Round, thin, easy. You prick each with a sliver of bone so steam can escape. Tiny shield practice. You do not shout for Odin when you flip them, but you think it. Joke number 2 stays in your chest, where it is warm. The smoke drifts lower. Your hair takes it in like it was born for this job, which it was. Your dress will smell like this until you wash it, and even then, the scent will cling. The whole hall reeks of meals, seasonings, and ash. It is not bad. It is life-flavored. You set the first disc of dough on the hot stone. It hisses, then settles. You wait for the edges to dry and the center to bubble. You slide a thin stick under and flip in one smooth move. The cat watches with the face of a very tough teacher. The bread is spotted with brown freckles. You lift it to a wooden board and lay down another. Your hands find a rhythm. Press, prick, lay, lift, flip, stack. Rhythm is the friend that never judges. You stir the porridge with a whisk you made from birch twigs tied with a strip of bark. It smells faintly green, like a tiny springtime living at the end of your arm. That little whisk is your quirky tool, and it does a neat job breaking lumps. You toss in a small handful of dried bilberries saved from summer. They stain the porridge purple where they land. Magic trick, low budget. If you have honey, you keep it for a sick day or a feast. Today, a drizzle for the smallest bowl. The littlest always wins that game. You do not mind. You lay the breads in a cloth to keep them soft and warm. Some folks set cabbage leaves under flatbread to keep it from sticking. You do that when leaves are around. Today, you trust the stone. So far, it behaves. You wipe your brow with your sleeve, leaving a gray streak. You laugh at yourself and do not bother to polish. No one here is measuring your shine. You set out bowls and wooden spoons. A shared butter tub sits nearby with a lid carved with a bit of crosshatch. You like to make marks that mean mine, or maybe don't you dare. Some people scratch tiny rune-like signs on handles for luck. You did it once on a spoon and never told anyone. It is silly and sweet at once. You keep being silly and lovely where you can. You taste the porridge. It needs a breath more salt. You add it. You blow on the spoon and take another sip. The heat spreads down your throat and rests warm in your chest. You close your eyes for half a heartbeat. This is the soft part again. The cat headbutts your ankle and then pretends it was just a stretch. You ladle porridge into bowls. You tuck a flatbread under each one like a coaster you can eat. You set the best piece near the sleeping elder and the extra berries near a child who will not eat without being bribed by color. You pour a little warm water into a cup and set it by the bread stack. Steam rises in lazy fingers. Your nose feels new again. You do a quick check of the fire, pushing the coals back to a snug pile with a stick. The house breathes better when the flames behave. This kind of heart is old and simple. No iron stove, no chimney with manners. Just fire, stone, and smoke find the door when they can. You squint through the haze and feel the world sharpen when your eyes water. It is not fun. It is normal. Another true thing. Flat stones for baking and cooking show up in Norse sites. Iron griddles appear, too, but stone is a friend in many places. Your slab has small pits from years of heat and water. It still does the job. You respect that. You listen for feet and soft voices. The house shifts. A blanket rustles. Someone coughs and sits up. You smile and place the ladle back in the pot like you are putting a sleepy child to sleep. The porridge gives one last plop. Tries to splash you, misses, and acts like it meant to. Joke number 3 goes to the pot. Nice try, friend. You stack the last bread and wrap the cloth over it. You brush a little flour dust off the table. Your fingers feel the grit you talked about. Somewhere far in the future, a dentist will meet old Viking teeth and nod like a detective who solved a case. You laugh under your breath at the picture, then shake your head, back to now. You take one breath, slow and steady, and let it out. Breakfast stands ready. The day looks a tiny bit softer from here, the way snow looks softer after the first footstep. You lift a bowl and a small spoon for a small hand that will reach out soon, and you are already leaning toward that hand because this is what you do. You feed people. You keep the fire. You blink smoke out of your eyes and smile anyway. You pass bowls into waiting hands. Soft thanks move around the room like warm birds. You take a quick bite and hide a smile when the littlest smears purple across both cheeks like war paint for toddlers. Then you stand, wipe your palms, and cinch your belt. The keys hang there, heavy for their size. They chime against a knife and a tiny whetstone. A small ring links them, bright where your fingers polish the metal day after day. You hook the ring to your belt or the strap of your brooch. The sound is small thunder. People in this house hear that sound and know what it means. Work. Order. You cross to the big chest by the wall. Iron bands. A lock plate the size of your palm. The lid has a smooth curve from years of handling. You kneel and slide the right key home. It fits with a click that feels like a heartbeat finding its rhythm. You turn and lift. The hinge sings a tired note. You oil it later with a dab of tallow. You always do. Inside is the quiet treasure of winter. Barley in a sack tied tight. Oats for the older ones who chew slowly. A coil of dried fish that smells like the sea is trying to visit. A lump of salt wrapped in cloth like a baby mountain. A jar sealed with wax that holds honey as gold as the late sun. You lift each, weigh it with your hands, and read the story of how long they will last. Your face does math your mouth never says. You keep a little scoop in the corner. You carved a mark on the handle so it is your scoop, not just any scoop. One scoop for breakfast now. One for tomorrow set aside in a small bag, because tomorrow tries to steal from today and you tell it no. You count in whispers. 1, 2, 3. The sound keeps your pace. A plain, true thing sits bright in this moment. Archaeologists find keys in many women's graves from Norse lands, and those keys ride at the hip, a badge of running the house. Mistress of the home, keeper of stores. That is not just a tale. It is iron and earth saying yes. The lock answers with a click as you close the chest and breathe out. You move to the smaller chest. This one is for the delicate things. Cloth, thread, needles that hide from sight like shy fish, shears, wrapped so they do not bite through the world. A little bag with a few glass beads for trade or promise, not for play. You unlock, lift, and touch. You check the edges with a finger. You count spools of yarn. You lift a folded strip of bright tablet-woven trim and smile like you found summer in a drawer. You do not leave this one open for long. You set it right and turn the key until it snugs the day safe again. You keep a tally stick near the chest. A notch for each sack of grain. A short notch for half. A cross notch for what you loaned and what came back. It looks simple. It works. You run your thumb over the fresh cuts and remember faces that match the notches. A neighbor with a cough. An aunt with a laugh like a bell. You nod once, then tuck the stick back under the lid rope. Historians still argue whether every woman wore keys like this all day or if the iron showed only at feasts and burials. They also say whether the key meant formal legal power in every place or if it was more a badge of daily duty. You stand inside the argument and do not need to win it. The key ring, the lock answers, and the house moves because you said so. That is plenty. You shift to the pantry shelf. Low boards, pegs for bags, clay pots with lids tied down by a string. You tap each lid and listen to the hollow note. You lift a cloth. Butter sleeps inside, pale and firm. You press a finger and leave a small dent. You cover it again, then smile. You put a smooth white stone at the bottom of the butter jar last month, the way your grandmother swore by. Does a stone keep butter sweet? Maybe. Maybe it is only a charm. It makes you feel like the butter has a friend. Quirky, yes, but it makes your shoulders relax a little. You check the salt lump. It has wept a tear of brine. You dab it and wrap it tighter. Salt is gold in winter. Keeps meat good. It makes soup taste like hope. You kiss your fingers and touch the cloth for luck. Then you feel the key ring too. The cold metal wakes your skin. You turn and scan the rafters. A string of onions hangs like a line of moons. A bunch of herbs dries brown and crackly. You rub a leaf and breathe in summer in one small breath. You smile and blow the dust away. The cat watches you and blinks slowly. The cat approves of an order when it benefits the cat. A side chest holds sharp things and shiny things. You unlock it and check the knives. You wipe one with wool to keep the damp off. You touch a small silver ring and then let it go. Not for today. You close the chest. You turn the key easy and firm and feel that deep click in your bones. It is a sound your children will know by heart. You step into the byre end to peek at another small box. Medicine of the home lives here. Herbs, cup of honey, a bit of linen rolled tight, a small spoon for dosing. You always lock it. You lost a whole bag of seeds once to small hands and a pretend market game. Never again. You pat the lid like you are patting a patient dog. You tie a small pouch at your belt beside the keys. A few pebbles for counting. A scrap of wax. A short pencil of char. You feel like a traveling desk and grin. Joke number 1. You are a walking office with better snacks. You stand in the doorway and shake the keys once. The sound snaps the air. The big ones come to attention. The small ones giggle. One tries to hide under a blanket because of the chores. You point the key ring at the blanket like a magic wand that summons effort. It works. Tiny feet appear. You fight a smile and lose. Joke number 2. Keys double as a parenting tool, and it is beautiful. You walk the room and make a short speech to the shelves. Measure the meal. Count the fish. Save the honey. Hide the shears from curious fingers. Keep the salt dry. Lock the bright things. You tell the walls, and the walls keep the secret. The house likes it when its bones get names. You think that, then shake your head at yourself. Too much smoke makes thoughts float strangely. You pause by the door beam and run your fingers over old knife marks. Years of cuts from years of rope cuts and plant twine. A calendar no one planned. You add one more small notch with your knife for the last sack of oats you opened. Not pretty. True. A few steps take you to the far corner where a low chest lives. You unlock and check a pair of extra shoes with straw packed in tight. You check a bundle of spare lamp wicks. You check the tiny iron key that opens the smallest box of all. In that small box sits a bit of coin and a bead like a frozen drop of sky. You look. You're close. You turn the key and hang it back. Your breath comes out slower after that. You did not know you were holding it. Neighbors trust the sound of your keys. They hear it and know that this house runs. It is a small power, but in a small world it is large. It rides with you when you step outside. It shines at your hip. It tells the dog to stop stealing from the fish coil. It tells the boy to stop whittling on the door. It tells your own heart that you have a plan. Joke number 3 lives in your head. If you had more keys, you could start a band. The song would be called Lock That Chest Again. You hum 2 notes, and the rooster answers like he is in the choir. You walk back to the hearth and settle the ring so it sits just right. Not too low. Not so high that it pokes your ribs when you bend. You slide the key free and test the small chest again. Habit. All is well. You slip the key back, and the ring chirps. You think, for a quiet breath, about what the keys mean outside this house. They mean respect. They mean trust. They tell you that you can speak for stores, work, and who gets what when snow stacks up and the road goes away. It is simple and heavy at once. You do not say any of that out loud. You move the day along. You lift a pail and set it by the door. You hang the milking cloth from a peg. You reach for a little salve to warm in a spoon, because cold mornings can bite. The keys brush your hip as you turn. Metal, leather, wool, wood, ash, breath. The sound is the song of this house. You breathe with it. Then you step toward the byre, slow and sure. You step into the byre with your pail, cloth, and the little spoon of warm salve. The air is sweet and sour at once. Hay, hide, and the sleep breath of cows. You greet the old red cow by name. She flicks an ear and tests your soul with a deep look. You answer with a hum, a simple tune. Warm, slow, and steady. It works better than orders. You tie her by the stall ring and slip the tail rope on. No face whipping today, thank you. You set your low stool and sit with your knees close. Your hands are clean and warm. The cloth is warmer. You wash each teat with soft moves. You rub a little salve on the cold bites. The cow sighs. You sigh back. Your shoulders drop like stones into a pond. You set the pail just so and start. Pull down. Release. Pull down. Release. The milk hits the pail with a bright ping, then a steady rush. Foam rises, steam curls. You lean your head into the cow's flank and feel her chew. Slow, calm. You match her pace. A hoof lifts, then rests. Her ear twitches at a fly that does not exist. You talk about nothing. The weather, the silly goat, last night's tiny snore from the dog. She listens, or she likes the sound. Either way, she stands. A fact that lives in bone and wood. Dairy feeds this house. In the north, milk and what you make from it fill bowls more days than meat ever can. Churns, strainers, and oversized tubs show up in digs from farms like this. Skyr is a real thing with a long shelf life. Old stories in Iceland talk about it as if it were always there. You taste that history every day. The cow swats her tail once. Not your face this time. Your shoulder gets the review. You accept the feedback, joke number 1. The management has spoken. You finish the first pail and move to the next cow. This one is new and skittish. You quiet your breath and keep the cloth slow. You hum and lean. She tenses, then settles. Milk starts again. You watch the stream for any odd color or clumps. Today looks good. You nod, as if the cow needs the report. You strain the warm milk through a cloth into a clean tub. Little bits of hay and straw stay behind in the net of weave. Some folks weave strainers from horsehair. Yours is linen washed so many times it feels like silk. The milk settles like a small cloud in a wooden sky. You set the tub on the bench near the cool wall. Cream will climb to the top by evening. For butter, you use yesterday's cream. It slept in a covered jar to keep smoke and hands away. You skim the thick top and pour it into the churn. This churn is a tub with a lid and a tall dash. The dash handle fits your palm like an old friend. You set the lid and start. Down, down. The rhythm is the road. First, it sloshes. The sound is a boat on a lake. Your arms are warm. Your back wakes. You keep the count in your head. 50, 100, 200. The cream turns from a slosh to a soft thud. Then tiny grains form. The sound changes again, like footsteps on wet sand. You stop and peek. A pale mass clumps on the dash. Buttermilk swims around it like a silver pond. Gym membership. No fee, no trainer, just butter that pays you back. Joke number 2 goes to the churn. You pour off the buttermilk into a jug. You will drink it later or use it for baking. You pour cold water into the churn and swish the butter. You drain and repeat. Wash until the water runs clear. You lift the butter into a bowl and press it with a paddle. Water beads out and runs away. You sprinkle salt over the mass. Not much, just enough to help it keep and sing. You fold and press, until the butter looks smooth, like sun-warmed and asleep. You pat it into a tub lined with a leaf. Birch works, cabbage works. The leaf keeps butter from sticking and adds the faintest green smell. You press the top flat with the paddle and make a tiny mark. 2 lines crossed, your sign. You set the tub in the cool corner, away from the dog who thinks butter is a toy sent by friendly spirits. A quirky note from the older woman. Slip a small iron nail under the churn so witches can't steal the butter. Is that a joke? A charm? Both? You do it sometimes because it makes grandmothers smile. Your arms swear the nail helps. Your head knows it is the work. Either way, it harms no one and keeps the mood soft. You take a short breath and turn to cheese. Fresh milk waits in the pot. You warm it to blood warm. You test with a clean finger. Not hot, not cold, just right. You add a spoonful of last night's skyr. You crumble in a tiny piece of dried rennet from a calf's stomach that has been salted and saved. You stir with slow circles. You wrap the pot in a cloth and set it by the gentle side of the hearth. The house will hold it warm while it thinks. Historians still argue whether skyr in the Viking Age was more like a yogurt or more like a young cheese. They also tangle over whether rennet was used every time or if souring alone did the trick. You do what your mother did. It works, and that is the test that counts. You check the pot after a little while. The milk has set soft, like a trembling pillow. You cut the curd into neat cubes with a knife. They shine. Whey seeps into the cuts like little rivers. You lift the curds into a cloth bag and tie it with twine. You hang the bag from a peg high enough that the cat cannot pretend it is a new moon. Drip, drip, drip. The sound is a small clock. The whey runs into a bucket. You call it mysa. You drink it cool on hot days. You cook with it. You pour some for the pig who thinks it is a feast. In winter, you might even keep fish in sour whey to keep it safe. The world wastes nothing when the wind is sharp. You give the curd time. Time is an ingredient. You press it a little to help it drain. Later, you will beat in a bit of cream and salt to make it smooth. That will be skyr for bowls, for bread, for bellies that work hard and need quiet food. If there is extra, it becomes trade. People will walk a distance for a tub of good skyr. It is food and coin in one. Here is another true thread from the ground. Big churns, cheese molds, and curd strainers turn up in farm sites across the north. Butter was not just food. It was wealth. People paid dues with it in some later times. A good dairy hand was a treasure. You do not need a book to know that. Your arms tell you. A fringe little note lives in the peat too. In some bogs far to the west, and in some parts of the north, people buried butter in tight containers to keep it cool and safe. They find those lumps centuries later, pale as moons. You have never done it. Your bog is too far, your nerve too small. But you have heard the tale, and you keep a straight face because who knows what you will try after one bad summer. You clean the pails and cloths at once. Milk turns fast if you let it sit. Warm water. Ash if you need it. A good rinse. You hang the cloth by the heat where smoke can kiss it and keep small things away. You set the churn lid on its peg so it can dry from both sides. Small rules save big work later. You carry a cup of fresh buttermilk and a scrap of warm bread to the byre door. You raise the cup to the old cow. She gives you a long look that feels like a blessing and a bill. You pay it with a rub on the ridge between her horns. She closes her eyes. The payment clears. Joke number 3 rustles up as you tie the curd bag tighter. Cheesecloth. You whisper. The oldest filter on the internet. The cat meows like it got the joke. Maybe it did. Cats are very wise when food hangs above them. You step back and listen to the slow drip. The house hums. The butter rests. The skyr sets, your arms buzz with good work. You shake them out and smile at the ache. That ache is rent paid to a small, strong life. You pay it and do not complain. You wipe your hands on your apron and reach for the distaff. The bundle of wool is tied like a small cloud to a stick. You tuck the stick under your arm. Your fingers pull a lock free. The wool has two moods: long, shiny guard hair and soft, short underdown. You sort a little by feel. Some you blend. Some you keep apart. You want strong yarn for demanding jobs. You want something soft for your skin. You pick out straw and thistle. You hum as you work. The skier bag drips in the corner. Drip, drip. The room keeps time for you. You lick a finger and twist a tiny leader thread. You loop it on the spindle. The whirl is a smooth disc of baked clay. It is plain, but your thumb knows its edge like a path in your sleep. You spin the spindle and let it drop. Twist runs up the wool. Your other hand feeds the fibers, slow and steady. You feel the tug and answer with a bit of give. The thread grows, tight enough to hold, loose enough to bend. That balance is all. The spindle swings near your knee and purrs. Cats purr louder, but the spindle wins for charm. The cat decides the spindle is a toy you made only for the cat. Wrong. You shift your knee and block a pounce without looking. Joke number 1 goes to both of you. You are fast. The cat is faster. The yarn lands safely anyway. Your hands smell like sheep. The old grease softens your skin. You spin in the grease on purpose. The lanolin makes the yarn strong. Later, it helps keep water out. Your fingers shine a little. You rub your thumb to your forefinger and feel that soft tack. It is nice. You do not own lotion. You own sheep. A plain fact sits right here in your hands. Norse women spin with drop spindles, not wheels. Spindle whirls turn up in graves and house floors all over the north. Clay, stone, bone, even bright glass sometimes. You smile at that last thought. You do not have glass. You have clay and care, which is enough. You walk a slow circle and let the spindle wind more twists. You park it on your thigh, then wind the new yarn up in a neat cone. You slide the cone down and spin again. Step, spin, draft, wind. The rhythm quiets your head. You could do this in the dark. You have many nights. You think of color for a moment. Summer gives you choices. Blue from woad, yellow from birch leaves, red from matter you traded for at a market far away. Today stays plain. Dye can wait for the sun. Right now, the cloth's job is life, not a parade. You fill one spindle, then another. You twist 2 threads together for strength. You roll them down your thigh to ply them. The twist answers with a soft rope. Good. You tie a little knot and smile. You drop the full skeins into a basket by the loom. The loom stands by the wall like a quiet tree. 2 posts, a top beam, a bottom bar. You lean it a bit the way it likes. You touch the smooth wood. It is warm from the hearth and your past days. The floor below holds a line of round weights. Fired clay. Each has a hole and a scar from a finger that pressed it when it was wet. You press your finger there and feel old hands answer. You wind the warp on the top beam. These are the long threads that will carry the load. You count groups and tie them in bundles. You hang a weight on each bundle. The weights keep the threads tight. Tight is the road. Loose is in the ditch. You open a shed with the heddle rod and a second shed with your hand. The space between the threads is a magic gate. You slide the shuttle through. The weft lies across like a river. You beat it in with a weaving sword. The sword is wood, shaped like a flat blade. It makes you feel fierce. You only fight gaps and lumps, which is battle enough. Historians still argue whether most sails were plain and undyed or bold with red or striped with pride. You have seen both in old talk. You have cloth to make either way. You keep the beat and leave the paint for later. You watch the line grow inch by inch. Your shoulders follow the motion. Your feet settle wide. Your breath is slow. You are a metronome who cooks, sings, and solves small fights at the same time. You take a step back and check. The selvage is clean. The weave is even. Good. Here is another true thing. Fabric like this wadmal works as money in some places later on. It is cloth, but it is also law. People trade it and pay with it. That is how much this work matters. You think about that and straighten your back another inch. You lift the shuttle and pass it through again. The cat sits on the weights and rides them like a boat in a tide. You lift the cat off, set it down, and do not make eye contact. The cat pretends it moved itself, joke number 2. You roll your eyes so softly that even your eyebrows do not notice. When the cloth comes off the loom, it is not done. You fill it. You soak it. You walk it. Yes, with feet. In a tub. You and a friend stamp in circles until the fibers lock. Quirky truth coming in hot. Stale urine helps the process. You wrinkle your nose and keep stomping. It works. Tightens the cloth and turns it tough. You rinse it and then stretch it flat on a frame by the fire. The house smells like a plan and a stable tried to move in. You open the door for air and call it even. For sailcloth, the plan grows to giant proportions. One sail is many panels sewn edge to edge. Warp strong. We're close. You use the long hairs for the warp whenever possible. You pack the weft densely. You feel the cloth hard. You apply a mixture of fat and fish oil to shed water. Some add ochre to keep rot away. It stains the fabric a warm red-brown. You do not worry about stains. Sails do not go to dances. They go to storms. You look at your basket and do the math you always do. A single sail eats yarn like a sea monster. Tens of thousands of meters. A hill of wool. Hours beyond counting. A whole village of hands. You smile and decide to invent weekends. Too bad no one will sign your petition. Joke number 3 lands light and keeps you moving. You sew long seams with a strong stitch. You back them with strips. Your needle is iron and blunt from work. You sharpen it on a stone like a tiny sword. Your hands swell a little from pushing through heavy layers. You rest them on your knees and blow on your fingers. Then you stitch again. You sing a small work song. You keep time. The thread behaves more smoothly when you sing. That is your science. Some folks tuck a hair into the hem of a sail for luck. You have seen it done. 1 hair from the captain. 1 hair from the woman who made the first seam. You shrug, then smile. Luck likes a seat at the table. You pull 1 hair from your braid and slide it into the fold. Costs you nothing. It buys you peace. Your loom clacks and hushes. Beat, hush, beat, hush. The sound has weight. The little ones play near the warm side and toss a soft ball of yarn between them. You do not flinch when it rolls under the loom. You slide it back with your foot without missing a pass. The keys at your belt chime when you shift. The house knows that song now. It is the tune of work and care. You think of clothes, and this cloth will become them. A dress for a girl who will run fast. Breeches for a boy who will climb too high. A cloak for the one who tends sheep in sleet. A hood that reduces wind sharpness. Bright trim on the edge so winter can see that you are still here and still making beautiful things. You think of ships. Cloth grows into wings. The wind fills those wings and pushes wood over gray water. Men steer and shout and pray. They move because a room like this hummed all winter. Because hands like yours spun and warped and beat and stitched until cloth turned into travel. That is the secret. No one sings in loud halls. Ships sail because women weave cloth from wind. You finish a length and roll the cloth on the bottom beam. You smooth the surface and nod to it like a good cow after milking. You set the shuttle down. You rub your neck. The ache there is your old friend. You let it sit. You look once at the sky bag. The dripping has slowed. You look at the butter tub in its cool spot. You still smell a hint of fish oil in your mind and almost laugh. If the churn has an iron nail for luck, the loom can borrow a pin. You slide a tiny iron pin into the thread basket. It winks in the firelight, and you feel better for no reason that a book would list. You draw a slow breath. You smooth the warp with your palm one last time. The cloth will wait. It always does. You hang the weaving sword on its peg. The room is quiet except for the cat's small snores and the faraway drip. You tuck the spindle in its basket, safe from paws. Then you stand and roll your shoulders. Work does not end. Turns. You turn with it. You take the hoe from its peg and step outside. The air bites, then eases. Clouds roll low and fast like big sheep with places to be. Wind smells of wet earth and salt. Your braid tugs at your neck. The keys at your hip chime once and settle. The cat slips out. then thinks better of it and slides back inside like smoke. Wise cat. You cross the yard to the small field. The barley shows as neat rows of green knives. Each blade stands brave against the cold. You kneel and pinch out weeds by hand, roots and all. You shake soil back where it belongs. You pull the hoe along the row and slice the thin ones. It is slow, but it is quiet work. Your breath steadies. The ground gives a little under your boots. You feel the old marks of the ard from spring. Lines like a fan. Scratched, not flipped, the soil. Here is a plain thing you could stake with iron. Barley is the staple on many farms like yours, and the simple ard plow is the tool that opens the field. It scores the top and stirs in dung and seaweed. It does not roll big sod like later plows. It does just enough and trusts your hands for the rest. That is the rule here. Enough, then hands. You work down the furrow. Fingertips tingle from damp. You blow on them and keep going. You find a fat grub and flick it over the fence. Chickens will marvel at this miracle later. You fold a clump of moss into a bare patch for cover. You press the soil and pat it like a sleepy dog. Grow well, you whisper. A robin lands on a post and judges your method. You bow, then weed on. You fetch a basket of dry seaweed from the shed. It still holds a salty tang. You crumble it in your palms and dust it over the least loved spots. It feeds the soil. It holds water. You also carry a scoop of old dung. You spread it thin, then smooth it with the hoe. The field size, or that is you. Either way, the work feels right. You watch the sky while you work. A ring sits faintly around the sun. Mares' tails ride high to the south. The wind veers and brings a wet smell. Your weather app is a cow's tail and your left knee. Both say, hurry. Joke number 1 limps along, but it keeps you alert. You close the gate and head for the sheep. The dog falls in at your heel without a word. You lift your crook and tap it twice on the fence. The flock looks up as one mind. You open the hurdle and let them spill out like a gray cloud. They know the path. You walk behind the dog, keeping it off to the side. He is a whisper with legs. He slides pressure where it is needed and holds it off where it is not. You love that dog a little more than you love warm porridge. You keep them off the new barley. You guide them toward the rough field by the stream where grass pushes through last year's yellow. You stroll. Heads go down. Chew begins. Peace finds the hour. You kneel and check a hoof on one ewe who limps. You clean a small stone from the cleft and smear a touch of pine tar. The scent bites the nose and laughs at rot. You make a quick charcoal mark on her back to remind you to look again later. Your fingers come away black. You wipe them on your apron and accidentally create a new design. Bold. You wade the stream to fetch the last 3 rebels. They stand mid-water and hold a meeting. The minutes are bleats. The dog gives them a look that says the union may file a complaint. Joke number 2 shakes water from its ears. You clap your hands, soft but firm. They cross. You all pretend this was the plan. You raise your eyes to the slope beyond. Later in the summer, you will send a team up to the summer sheds with cows and ewes. Milk is rich there. Grass is deep. For now, you keep the flock moving in strips with low hurdles. Chew step chew. It saves the ground. It saves the sheep. Wool grows on good plants. You cut a small branch of rowan and tie it to the field gate. Red bark glows against gray. Your grandmother insists it keeps trouble shy. You also tuck a crumb of bread under a stone at the edge of the barley. A tiny thank you to the land spirits who don't sign rent but live here anyway. Quirky, yes, but you sleep better when you do it. The soil seems to like the manure. Historians still argue whether farms like yours used strict rotations each year or let land rest only when they had to. Some say the plan was set and tight. Some say the plan bent with the weather and mouths. You shrug and do what the sky and the storeroom tell you. You trust both more than words. The wind freshens. You feel the change on your neck. You send the dog to push the flock back toward the yard. He folds them neat as a blanket. You slip the last lamb under the fence by hand. He blinks and forgives you at once. You close the hurdle and tie it with a twist that only looks loose. It will hold until a goat rethinks physics. You shoulder the peat spade and walk to the bog edge. The ground feels like cake. Brown pools shine in small cups. Birch saplings stand like thin fingers. You push the long blade in with your boot and cut a brick of turf. It lifts heavy and wet. You stack it on the sod next to you, then cut another. Set. Set. The smell is old, sweet, and deep, like a library that grows in the ground. Your hands turn dark. Your breath fogs and vanishes. You build the first stack low and wide, 2 bricks one way, 2 across, crisscross like a woven mat, gaps between for wind, high enough to dry, not so high that it falls in a tantrum during a gust. You add a little roof of slanted bricks so rain runs off. There, a small brown house for future fire. It will stand a month or more. Then it will come home, dry and light, and burn slowly and evenly. Here is a true thing that travels far. In places with little wood, turf and peat are the answer. People cut, dry, and burn them for heat and cooking. Houses themselves wear turf for skin. Warm, heavy, strong against the wind. Your roof knows this. Your hands know this too after the first dozen bricks. You cut and stack until your shoulder hums. Your boots sink and slurp. Your toes are done with you. You look at the neat rows and think they look like a tray of brownies. Do not taste test. Joke number 3 waves a soggy finger and makes you grin. The clouds thicken to one long bruise. You feel the edge of the rain before the drops hit. A hush, then a hiss. You pull your hood up and jog back toward the yard. The first line of rain is a curtain that sweeps the field. You reach the gate and slam the bar down. The sheep need no hints. They find the lee of the fence and turn their backs to the wind. You share the trick. It helps. The yard grows wet and dark in minutes. Water runs in small silver rivers along the pathstones. Your boots squelch with each step. Remember that house smoke that tried to be eyeliner? The wind scrubs your eyes clean. You blink and laugh once. Feels good to laugh and not cough. You duck into the longhouse, and the heat kisses your cheeks. The cat sits by the door and gives you that told-you-so stare. You bow to the superior forecast. The keys jingle when you hang your cloak. Drips tap to the floor. You shake out your braid and push flyaways back in place. You smell peat, wet wool, and warm milk. You close your eyes for one breath. You step back to the door and look through a thin seam. The stacks stand firm. The barley lies flat for a moment, then lifts and seems to take a tiny bow. Good. The plan holds. You run your thumb over a nick in your hoe and set it to dry near the hearth. The dog curls by the fire and sighs like a bellows at rest. You pour a bit of misa into a cup and sip. Salt, sour, sweet under it all. Tastes like work done on time. Outside, the rain drums on turf. Inside, the sky bag gives a last soft drip. You think about the next job, as always. You hold it at arm's length for one more heartbeat. Then you set the cup down and reach for the next tool. You gather the small herd of small humans as the rain taps its steady beat on the roof. The big ones slide in close, all elbows and questions. The baby is hot-cheeked and grumpy with gums like little storm clouds. You sit on the bench by the warm side of the hearth and sway your knees. Back and forth. Slow. Soft. Your hum is that same tune you gave the old red cow. It works on calves. It works on babies. It might work on mountains. You dip a clean cloth in cool water and wring it tight. You let the baby gum the edge. You rub a tiny circle along the sore line with your finger. You offer a smooth crust of yesterday's bread to chew. He gnaws like a brave wolf with only 2 teeth. You smile and wipe a string of drool that could water a field. Your sleeve is now a river. That is fine. Your sleeve has seen worse. You tie a bit of red wool on the baby's wrist. Your grandmother claims that red confuses the small, mean things that live between here and there. You also pin a tiny iron ring to the hem of the cradle cloth. Iron has a job far beyond nails, she says. Quirky. Sure. But you watch the charms and feel your breath ease. The cradle itself hangs from a beam, and you push it once with 2 fingers. It rocks like a boat on a small bay. The baby's eyes follow the swing slowly. The storm in his gums does not stop, but it steps back. You hand the older 2 a basket of fleece and 2 small combs. Pick a straw, you say. Make clouds smooth. You show them the spacing of teeth. You say, gentle, not tug. Tease. Hands begin clumsy at first, then steady. You set a tiny spindle in one lap and show the twist again. Drop, spin, feed, catch. You hold small fingers and guide the feed. The spindle hums, and the child grins like a lantern. That grin could heat the room faster than peat. A plain fact lives in this work. Children on farms like this start early with small, safe jobs. They scare crows. They pick will clean. They watch hens. Archaeologists find tiny wooden boats, carved animals, and game pieces in Norse layers. Little hands had time to learn and time to play. Both. You set a shallow bowl with a spoon and a dollop of skyr. You swirl in a few purple bilberries. The smallest one gets the tiniest taste. He smacks his lips and looks betrayed when the spoon leaves. You tell him more is coming. He does not believe you. He plans to file a complaint with HR Heart Resources right after his nap. Joke number 1 makes the older two snort into their sleeves. The rain finds a faster song on the roof. You tell the boy to check the hen roost, but not yet. Wait for the drop to slow. You say, eggs and wet are a fight. He nods and keeps teasing the wool. You see his jaw set the same way yours does at the loom. A good face to have. You pull a needle from your pouch and thread a bright strip through a broken cuff. The little girl watches. You show her how you turn the edge under and make the tiny stitches run even, like bird tracks on new snow. She tries with a blunt needle on a scrap. Her tongue peeks out at the corner of her mouth. The stitch line wobbles. You call it a river and say rivers are beautiful too. She glows. You tuck that glow in your chest for later. You lay the baby on your lap and tap his back in slow pats. He sighs and drops his head on your shoulder like a sack of feathers. You watch the fire and think about names. You did the water sprinkling for him days after he came, the old way, Osavatni, so he was genuinely taken into the family. A real old practice in the north. Water and a name. Place at the hearth. You whisper his name once now, to hear it float in the smoke. You carve a turnip into a small cow with a quick hand. You pass it to the girl. She rides it across the bench and through a forest of folded blankets. You give the boy a handful of pebbles from your belt pouch. He lines them up and counts. 1, 2, 3. He trades you 2 for a story, a fair price. You begin. You keep the tale short. Thor and the goat that overeats. Freya's cats, who pull a cart and refuse to hurry. The kids look at your cat. The cat yawns like a queen and agrees with the whole myth. Joke number 2 falls out of your mouth and purrs. You tuck a little Thor's hammer pendant into a cap and tie the ties under the baby's chin. Small hammers like this turn up in graves and hoards, and some are as tiny as a thumbnail. You like the weight of it there. A hope, a sign, a shine. The baby does not care, but you do. Historians still argue whether most farm children learned to read runes at home or if writing sat mostly with traders, smiths, and a few priests. You trace the shape of a simple rune in the soot on the table edge anyway. You say it's sound. The boy copies it with his finger. He says it slowly. You clap once. He beams like a new star. You pour a tiny dill seed steep for your cup. You call it belly peace. You do not give it to the baby. You drink it and let the sweetness sit under your tongue. A simple comfort can carry half a day. When the rain softens, you send the boy to the hens with a small basket and the dog at his heel. Check each nest, you say. Thank each hen. He rolls his eyes at the thanks part and then does it anyway. He comes back with 3 warm eggs. He holds them like treasure. They are treasures. You point to the small one and call it his courage egg. He eats it later and grows at least half a finger. He will tell his friends this by spring. You set out knuckle bones on the table, sheep ankle bones you kept from last fall. You show the girl how to toss and catch. She misses and laughs. You miss and blame the cat. The cat agrees, of course. Joke number 3 pays the cat tax. You rub the baby's gums with a smear of butter because your mother did it and swore by it. The baby drools, then pauses, then sighs. Is it the butter? Is it the rocking? You do not care which thing helps. All gentle people are welcome. You lift a corner of a rug and shake crumbs into your hand. You find a small bead that rolled to freedom last night. You slip it back into the sewing chest before it tries to start a new life under the bench. The girl sees and nods. as if she has just discovered a secret door in the house. She has. A wet curl has found the boy's forehead. You smooth it and say his grandfather's name. He has that man's eyes. Names run like rivers through this place. They carry stories and push children forward even when the wind is in their faces. You change the baby's cloth and wash him with a warm rag. You pat dry. You rub a little goose fat on his chapped chin. He licks it and makes a face like a king trying soup for the first time. You tell him he is fearless. He believes you. Bravery loves praise at any age. You check the hearth bar and move the pot a thumb width to keep the porridge from sticking for the noon bite. You break a flatbread into quarters so small hands can hold their own. You hand each child a piece and make them promise not to feed the dog unless the dog says please. The dog does say please with his eyes. You pretend you are immune. You are not. You pull a wool hood over the girl's head and send her to the door to watch the path. Tell me when the rain turns fine, you say. We will set the washed cloth out then. She stands like a tiny guard with essential weather news. You smile without showing teeth. She is on duty. Duty is severe when you are small. The baby's eyes droop. You lift him, lay him in the cradle and push once. The beam creaks a little, then sings. You tuck the blanket to his chin. You touch the tiny hammer on his cap and the red thread on his wrist. You kiss his forehead and taste salt and smoke. He drifts and lets go, and the room breathes easier with him. You lower your voice as the older two settle at your feet with wool and bones and buttons. The rain slows. The cat's tail ticks once, twice, then sleeps. Your hands keep moving, slow and sure, teaching small skills in small doses like drops of water on dry ground. You are not just passing time. You are bending the future one stitch, one song, and one spoonful of skier at a time. The rain frays to a mist, then to nothing. You wrap a length of clean cloth, a skein of yarn, a small tub of butter with your little cross mark on top, and a tight-lidded pot of skier. You add one strip of bright trim for bait, because color pulls silver like the moon pulls tides. The keys at your belt chime as you lift the pack. The dog sits up, hopeful. You point at the hearth. Guard the kingdom. He sighs, then guards like a statue that dreams of sausages. You step out on the wet path. The ground smells green and rich. Your straw-stuffed shoes whisper. Your cloak drinks the last drops from a low branch. The road to the field where the thing meets is a ribbon of mud and stones. You know each stone by the way it greets your heel. The wind thins. A gull cries far off. You walk, and your mind sorts deals while your hands hold the pack steady at your spine. The thing field sits by a stream and a stand of birch. People rise from the ground like new grass. Tents of cloth and quick turf walls make small streets that last a day. Smoke curls from simple braziers. A man calls out iron nails, bright and honest. A woman shows dyed wool in neat braids of blue and gold. Fish lie silver in a row on a plank. Mead smells sweet as a low sunset. Your stomach remembers lunch is not now and files a complaint with HR Heart Resources again. You deny it with a stern nod. Joke number 1 keeps your face steady. You angle toward the cloth folk. Your hands go to the goods. Not yet. First, you listen. News swims before the bargains. A sailor says a ship came last week with beads and blades. A trader says silver from the east is running thin this month. An older woman says the weather will swing back cold by night. She is right more often than the gulls. You make a knot in your mind. You greet a weaver you know. You touch elbows. You show your clothes. She rubs the edge, checks the selvage, and smiles slowly. She offers a handful of iron needles and a small whetstone in trade for 2 cubits. You tilt your head, then shake it. You slide the bright trim across her palm like a shiny fish. She laughs, then adds a hook and some nails. Deal. You both breathe out and grin like you just stole time. Here is a plain truth the ground and old words agree on. Markets form around the thing, the public meeting. People trade while they settle the law. They weigh silver in small balances and use cut bits, hack silver, to pay. You see a man with a tiny scale and a set of dome weights like acorns of bronze. He shaves a coin's edge with a knife to make the weight accurate. You nod. That is trust here. Not a face on a coin, but the scale's neat balance. You pull out your little scale, too, the iron pan swings. You set 2 beads on one side to test the feel. Your weights are old and smooth and live in a leather purse with a tear you keep meaning to fix. You put the purse away. You do not want to look eager. You find the salt man. He is the cousin of a cousin and always grins like trouble. He lays out his blocks wrapped in cloth. You check for damp. You press a thumb. It holds. You offer butter and skyr. He eyes the butter mark. He knows it. He gives a slight nod that means fair. You make the swap and tie the salt tight. You feel like a pirate without a boat and with better dairy. A boy chews a black lump and blows a tiny bubble that pops. You smile birch tar. Chewing gum leaves teeth marks in old layers. Kids chew it. Adults chew it. Cleans teeth a bit. Takes the edge off hunger. Tastes like smoke and tree. Quirky? Maybe. True? The lumps with bite marks say yes. You buy a small piece and tuck it in your bag for the walk home. Voices drift to the assembly side. Men and women draw toward a low rise of rock. The law circle is bare but full. The speaker stands where all can see. He lifts a hand and the sound fades. He starts to recite. Not from a book. He carries the law in his chest like a song. In some places, the one who speaks the law says a part each summer so none is lost. A third now. A third next year. You listen. The words are both dry and bright. People pledge oaths here. Some circles keep an iron ring on a stand. Warm it over the fire, then touch it as you swear. You see a ring now, dull as the moon, smooth from too many palms. A man places his hand on it and promises to keep the peace. He looks like peace and war both. You watch his wife at the edge of the crowd. Her jaw says she will remind him. You step closer to a small case at the borderline. 2 neighbors argue over a strip of field down by the stream. One calls to witness a stone and a birch. The other calls to a different stone because stones love to confuse. The law folk mark out the ground with a hazel rod. They listen. They talk. They check old marks. The choice comes slowly. It lands. One pays a small fine in weighed silver, the other nods. No one is happy, which is the mark of a fair day. You stand with 2 other women as news rubs against the law. You talk in low voices that fit the wind. You know what you hold, keys on your belt. Land is given as a dowry when you get married. The morning gift, set by your husband, promised and real. Those are yours by law in many places. If a marriage breaks up, you keep what is yours. If a partner mistreats you or fails to support the household, you can speak to end it. Grounds differ. Places differ. But the door is not locked to you. Historians still argue whether most women stood to speak at the thing or sent a male kin to say the words. They still argue whether every region gives the same right to divide property or to ask for a divorce in one's voice. You stand in the middle of that debate and live your version. You speak when you must. You send a cousin when that runs better. You do what gets the work done. You swap your skein of yarn for a small knife with a clean spine. You pass a coin to a bead seller and pick 3 blue beads for the girl's future cap. You accept 3 bits of silver for your cloth ends, not enough for a goat, just enough for a hinge. Your little scale sings true and you smile. A woman from across the bay asks for a tub of skyr at our next meeting. You promise. You taste the weight of that promise. Tastes like milk and dawn. A troop of boys plays a ball game on the edge of the field. They shout and laugh and fall in a heap. One pops up with grass in his hair and looks so proud you want to clap. A dog steals the ball and makes the game better. Joke number 2 runs on 4 feet, and nobody scolds it. You drift back to the ring as a fight cools with words. No blades. Fine instead. The man who pays looks stung. He will live. The law saves blood and keeps hands on tools. That is the point you love. Work more. Bleed less. Eat again. You hear talk of far coins. Some say bright coins with strange letters wash into this world on trade roads. You have seen them cut and weighed with your own eyes. Silver is silver when the scale sits level. Coins are jewelry to you unless they balance a pan. You pause at a booth with soapstone bowls. You pick one up. It is smooth and gray, similar to a good baking stone. It holds heat well. Cracks sometimes. You put it down and bless the one you already own. Tools are like cousins. More is not always better. The stallkeeper offers a small discount. You laugh and tap your empty purse. Tomorrow, money lives at home. Today, the money is gone. A man in a blue cloak stands to speak on a sea raid to the west. A murmur runs through the crowd. You listen for names, dates, ships, and safe returns. You tuck the news in your pocket along with the salt. You will need both before the month turns. You buy a strip of smoked fish for the walk back and call it a meal. You chew and watch the stream make its way around a rock. Smooth, then fast, then smooth again. The law is like that too, you think. Not soft, not hard, just moving. Joke number 3 nudges you as you tie your pack. The thing is like a town with no roofs and a court with no paper. Your loyalty card is a nod and a memory. Your receipt is the weight of what you carry home. You snort, then cough, then grin. You shoulder your pack as the sun slips behind a gray lid. The path turns darker and kinder at once. You walk faster. The dog waiting at home is very brave and very hungry. The cat will pretend it ran the house, and maybe it did. Your keys tap your hip. Your hands smell like salt and wool. Your head is full of legal jargon and small prices, and the look of a woman who needed a tub of skier and hope. You cross the last rise and see the turf roof like a hill that loves you. Smoke lifts from your hearth, thin and sure. You breathe in and feel taller than when you left. The world is wide. The house is small. You carry both and both fit. You shoulder the door open with a hip and set the pack down by the bench. The dog spins once and tries to tell you the whole day in one sentence. You give him a heel of bread for the summary. The cat sniffs the salt as if it had discovered the sea first. You hang your cloak, shake the wet from your braid, and touch the house post with 2 fingers. Thanks for the safe road, you whisper. Your voice is a thread in the smoke. You lay a small wooden plate by the pillar with a piece of flatbread and a dab of butter. You pour a spoonful of buttermilk into the hearth. The fire sighs and sends up a sweeter steam. You tie a twist of red wool at the beam, neat and hidden. That is for the ones who live in the corners. The land spirits that do not ask for much except respect. The rowan sprig at the gate still shines from this morning. The crumb you tucked under the stone is doing its quiet job. It all knots together. Little gifts, little thanks. A plain truth stands here by the flame. People in Norse homes keep household rites. A small shelf, a carved post, a stone stack, calls to Thor, to Freya, to the spirits of field and stream. Offerings of food and drink. Big feasts come in season. Small gestures fill the days between. You sweep a clear space, then sit. The room softens around the warmth. Feet crunch outside. A voice calls your name, low and careful. She is here, your neighbor says. The seeress. The words tug your thoughts like wind at a cloak. You nod and stand. You fetch an extra cushion, the one with feathers that never make peace with seams. You set it on the high seat by the post. You place a bowl of skyr and a cup of warm mysa within reach. You light the small lamp and trim the wick for a soft, thin light. No glare. You smooth your dress and breathe. She steps in with the smell of wet wool and juniper. Her staff clicks once on the threshold. The staff is made of iron and wood, featuring a knob and small rings that sing when it moves. Graves hold staves like this across the north. That is not just a story. Iron and earth agree. She shakes rain from a gray cloak and gives you a look that sees far and near at once. You bow your head a little. She nods back, tired and fierce. You help her to the high seat. You set the bowl in her hands. She eats slowly, eyes half closed, like she is tasting the world for salt. You feel the house stand taller. Women slip in and sit on the floor in a ring. Men wait near the door, quiet and restless. The baby sleeps in his cradle with the tiny hammer on his cap. The cat climbs to the rafters and becomes a shadow with whiskers. The dog lies by the door and becomes troll security. He takes his pay in sausages later. Your payroll is, as always, behind. Joke number 1 earns a smile from your neighbor. The seeress sets her empty bowl aside and holds the staff upright. She asks for a song. The warding song. The fetching song. You know it. Your mother knew it. You shape the old tune and let it slip across your teeth. Others join one by one. The notes are low and even. The room changes. It feels wider, like the walls step back to listen. She rises to a small board you set across the high seat. A raised place, not high, just enough that eyes find her. She wraps a blue cloth over her head and closes her eyes. She breathes with the fire. Her left hand holds the staff. Her right hand draws tiny circles in the air, slow as ash falling. Juniper and dried herbs smolder in a small dish. The smell is pine, bitter, and sweet all at once. Your skin prickles like frost under wool. A plain fact rides with the smoke. Seeress's Volar are in the stories with staffs and songs. Seer is the word, magic of seeing and shaping, linked to Freya and Odin both. The sagas say a seeress asks for the ward song, and the women sing so the sight can come. The staff is too long and too thin. It knocks on a door you cannot see. Historians still argue whether men worked seer often and were shamed for it, or if that idea grew later and bent with time and place. They also say whether every staff in a woman's grave is magic or if some were just for spinning. You stand inside that talk and watch a living hand hold iron. This is enough. She speaks first. It's as if she's answering herself. Then, like she is answering you, the words move slowly, like a tide with no shore to rush for. The wind will turn, she says. Not tomorrow, the day after. Tie the roof rope again. The knot near the east corner wants to slip. You nod before you know you nod. You see the rope in your mind, already a little proud of its trick. She touches the staff to the wood. Tap, tap. A ship comes, she says. Not all at once, piece by piece. 1 man this week, 2 more after the thaw. A crate before that, tied with a red cord, heavy with nails. Your mouth goes dry. Nails mean work, not sorrow. You let your shoulders relax 1 finger width. She smiles into the dark and tilts her head, listening to something you cannot hear. Do not move the grain chest yet, she says. A mouse nest lives in the corner seam. Ask the cat to negotiate. The rafters produce a polite chirp. You snort too loudly and cover it with a cough. The ward song runs under the words like a river under ice. You feel it in your ribs. Flow, flow, flow. Your neighbor asks about a cough in her child. The seeress asks for ash bark and honey water. Warm, not too hot, she says. 3 nights. She tells another woman to hang a small hammered ring by the door and to step over it with the left foot first. Will that help? Maybe. Maybe the help is the care. You will still do it. You know the weight of a habit that calms hands. A quirky piece of the room sits on your shelf. A smooth whalebone plaque you use to press linen with a glass smoother. Some whisper the plaques are also for rites. A small stage for the sacred bread. A lap altar for words. Others say it is only an iron for clothes. You set your smoother aside now and touch the bone with a thumb. It is cool, old, and good at both jobs. You will let it be both if it wants. She lowers the staff and takes the cloth from her head. She looks a little empty, like the sight drank from her cup and left a ring. You hand her warm Misa. She drinks and blinks back into the room. The men shift and remember they have knees. The fire pops like it just heard a good secret. The cat drops to the bench and pretends it was always there. You set a small plate with a bit of bread and a smear of butter on the threshold. For whom? For whatever walks out or in tonight. You sweep the step with a broom of birch twigs. You tuck a tiny iron nail near the hinge. Your grandmother would clap at that. Your mother would too. You ask one question, the one that sits under all the others. Will we manage? The seeress looks at your hands first, then at the loom, then the skybag hung and remained still. Yes, she says, because you already are. The answer lands like a warm stone in your pocket. You want magic that folds laundry. You do. If she offers it, you will trade 3 tubs of butter and a good hen. She does not provide it. You sigh and grin. Joke number 2 floats up and eases the room. You step to the shelf again. You touch the tiny hammer pendant you tucked into the baby's cap. You set it for the night on the shelf by a small boat carved from driftwood. Prayer is simple. Keep thunder fair. Keep the sea kind. That is all you ask. That and dry wood by morning. You think of the significant rites you will keep when the seasons turn. A spring feast if stores hold. A harvest thanks if the grain stands. You will bless tools, and you will lead the small splash of ale on the earth. You will not say everything out loud. Words are careful here. They work like the warp. Too tight and they snap. Too loose and they slip. Your neighbor tells you about a house that keeps a horse skull under the floor for luck and sound. You nod, half curious, half sure you do not want a skull under your bench. The floor already sings when the kids run. You do not need extra music. Still, you let the idea sit on the shelf with the whalebone. Not yes, not no, just there. The seeress gathers her cloak and staff. You press a slice of flatbread into her hand and a twist of wool into her pouch. You tuck a warm stone from the hearth into a scrap of cloth and give it to her pocket. It will cool fast. It will still help for a few steps. She smiles with one corner of her mouth and is gone. You sit on the high seat after she leaves. The cushion hisses down and remembers you. The house listens. The rain has gone. The wind fumbles at the eaves and then wanders off. You retie the red thread at the beam, feeling both silly and safe at the same time. You wish for a loyalty card for the gods. 9 offerings and the 10th is free. You would save a fortune. Joke number 3 earns a soft snort from the dog, who may be a scholar in disguise. You bank the fire and wipe the bowl she used. You hang a small charm bag by the door with rowan, a sliver of iron, and a pinch of salt. You pat the house post and whisper again. Thank you. Please. You do not ask big. You ask steadily. The room agrees. The baby stirs, then settles. The sky sits set and smooth. The staff left a round mark on the floor that you will not be able to scrub away. You like the reminder. You touch your keys. They chime once, bright and brave. You breathe in smoke, milk, and juniper, and you feel held. You sit on the bench and stare at the doorway like it can turn into a horizon. Your hands fold into your lap, then open, then fold again. A journey tugs at the edge of the day. Go or stay. Send a cousin or send a note. You weigh the work like grain in a scoop. If you sail, who milks? If you stay, who buys nails and news? The seeress said a ship comes in pieces. You still have to meet one of those pieces halfway. You pull a length of cord from a peg. You tie knots as you think. 1 knot for each night you think the trip will take. Along the coast to the market. Wait if the wind sulks. Back with salt, iron, and a little story wrapped in cloth. You add 3 knots for bad weather because you are not new here. You hang the cord by the door. Each morning you will untie one. It is a calendar that does not argue. You check the sky out the seam of the door. Wind is clean and cool. Low cloud, but bright edges. The gulls fly high and straight. That is good. The old cow stood tight to the wall at dusk, which can mean rain. Your left knee feels fine. Your weather app is a farm and your bones. Joke number 1 stands up and takes a bow. You set tasks in a row. The older 2 will feed hens and carry kindling with the neighbor's boy. The goat gets tied farther from the barley because goats are laws unto themselves. The loose peg in the byre gets a new wedge. You swap churn day with your friend up the path. She will take your turn if you bring back dye or needles. The dog will guard. The cat will write long reports you will never see. You pack a small chest for whoever sails. Dried fish, flatbread, a lump of butter with your little cross. A twist of skyr wrapped in leaves for the first day only. A bone needle, a spare thong for a sandal. A little bag of bright trim because trade likes bait. You tuck a rowan sprig under the lid. You pretend it is for smell. It is also for what you will not name. You run your palm over the ship rope coiled by the door. It is rough and honest. You check the pins and the spare thole. You oil them with a rag. Your hands shine and you like the shine. Ropes and would need kindness before they meet the sea. A plain fact sits like a mast in your mind. Cargo ships for the open sea are Nars, broad and deep. Longships run fast and lean for raids and speed. Nars carry families, animals, and sacks of grain to Iceland and beyond. Finds and the old stories agree on this. You say it in your head as if that helps the waves behave. You sort the letter you need to send. Not paper. A slim stick. Smooth and dry. You scratch runes along one face with your knife. Not fancy. Just the sounds of a name and the goods and the little please at the end. Bring iron nails. Bring blue dye. I will pay in cloth and butter. If the wind turns bad, wait. You turn the stick in your hand and breathe. Later towns far to the south and west will spill rune sticks like these out of the ground. Everyday talk, business and love both. You are not far from those hands. You are the same kind of human. You press wax on one end and mark it with your knife. Then you tie it in a cloth to hand to a man who sails before you. Historians still argue whether most farm women cut runes for daily notes or if only a few did. They still argue whether runes sat in all homes like yours or lived mostly with traders and smiths. You shrug and write anyway. Your world is loud with work. A note saves steps. You will take that win. You walk to the shore to look at the water. The line of the far bank is a gray brushstroke. Turns stitch the air with thin cries. The tide tugs at your boots and says, "Come on then." You count in your head. If a boat pushes off at first light, it can tuck into a small cove by dusk. 2 such days to the big market if the wind stays kind. Add 1 for the wind's mood. Add 1 for talking too long because talking is glue. You think about a long trip. Iceland, Greenland, far west, where stories say grapes grow wild. You do not plan those. You live where hay and milk set the borders. But you know the routes. You know the names. You know a cousin who went and sent back word by another cousin 5 months later. The letter came carved on a rib of driftwood. The words were plain, "We are cold. We are fine. Bring needles." You kept that rib in a chest for a while because it hummed like a far bell. A quirky trick from an old tale creeps in. Some say a man loosed ravens from his boat to find land when the sky hid the shore. If the birds flew back, no land lay ahead. If they flew on, hope did. You watch a black speck lean into the wind now and think about that bird, that boat, that moment. You feel the same tug in your own chest. You seal the little chest with a thong and a knot you can undo with cold hands. You do the math again. Hey, in 6 weeks. If the boat is late, your back pays. If the boat is early, your heart pays with too much hope too soon. You pick the middle and tell your heart to sit. You talk to the one who will go. Sleep dry, you say. Warm your clothes under your cloak before you put them on. Do not fight the sea. Make friends with it for 10 breaths at a time. You press a small hammer pendant into his palm. He is shy about amulets, but he closes his fingers anyway. People pretend they do not need help. People also sleep better with luck in a pocket. You step under the eave and tie a rope to the east corner again. Like the seeress said, you add a new knot and check the peg. There. The house makes a small, happy sound, like wood that knows you listened. You smile and pretend the house did not just talk. You light a taper and set it near the door. Not a big lantern, just a small flame. It is your silent signal. Come home. Find me. You set a bucket by the path and a bundle of dry reeds. If a sail shows late, you can set a quick flare that mines the wind. You are not the only watcher. Neighbors take turns on the headland. They will shout. You will shout. The whole shore becomes a mouth. You whisper another truth to yourself. When men go, women hold the farm. That is not a boast. It is a list. You milk. You weave. You judge a small fight before it grows teeth. You trade. You fix it. You keep 3 clocks running. Dawn. Noon. Need. They do not match. You make them match. You look at the prow board of the boat and run a hand over the dragon head carved there. You have seen men lift those heads off when they return home so they do not scare land spirits. You like that. Big courage at sea. Quiet manners at the door. Both can live in one set of ribs. Historians still argue whether sailors used a sunstone to find the hidden sun on cloudy days. Maybe a crystal. Maybe good eyes and long practice were enough. You smile and squint at the sky and then at the water. You will take both stone and practice if anyone offers. For now, you trust gulls and your knee. You draft a simple plan on the table with a coal. If the boat reaches the market in 2 days, trades for 1 day, waits 1 more for wind, and turns back in 2, that is 6. Add 2 for bad luck. 8 knots on the cord. You promise yourself you will not pace the shore. Then you pace the shore in your head. Joke number 2 stretches its legs. You hand the rune stick to a neighbor who goes early. He tucks it in his cap. You give him a small piece of butter wrapped in a leaf because his wife is kind to you. He smiles with all his teeth and says he will spit at the wind for luck. You tell him not to spit into it. He laughs and goes. You go over tools again. Oar sound. Rope sound. Food packed. Luck stacked. You lean your forehead to the boat side for one breath. The tar smell fills your nose. It smells like storms and money and news. It smells like change. You step back. You joke to the dog that if you had a little glass that showed a moving boat on a map, you would sleep like a baby. The dog pants like it understands. You invent push notes by poking the dog's ear. He blinks. You apologize. Joke number 3 goes to the dog, who forgives you at once. You let the water choose the last word. Wave in. Wave out. That is time. That is distance. You cannot press it. You can only match it. You fold the cord of knots in your palm. You turn back to the house. You push the door and slip inside. You stir the pot and set bowls on the board. The baby wakes and yawns like a small gate. The older 2 stand straight because they see a trip brewing. You hand out jobs with a steady voice and quick hands. The keys at your belt chime once as if to say, yes, work, wait, watch. Then you lift the first bowl. The door sighs closed, and the sea keeps its secrets a breath longer. You slide the door bar into its notch and hear the good, resounding thunk. The kind that says, try it. See how you do. You push once to test. Solid. You set a spare wedge by the frame, just in case the wood swells overnight. A rope links the door to a peg in the floor. If the bar slips, the rope still holds. Belts and suspenders, you think, and grin. Joke number 1 warms the room more than the fire. You walk the walls. Your fingers trace the seams where turf meets timber. You tuck moss where wind finds a thin place. You smooth clay over a hairline crack near the post. The house answers with a slight groan, like an old dog settling. You listen to the yard. Geese mutter by the gate. Yes, you keep 2. They are as loud as 10 men and need only grain for a monthly fee. Best alarm you ever hired. You lift the axe from its peg. The haft feels right in your hand. Smooth for years, dark from sweat and oil. You rub a thumb along the edge and feel that small bite that means it's ready. The axe is a tool first. You split kindling with it. You trim small branches with it. But if trouble comes, the axe remembers another job. You do too. You set a log on the block and split it fine. Thok, thok, clean and quick. You switch to a straw dummy you keep by the byre wall. It is only a bundle of reeds tied in a shirt. You step, lift, and strike low. You are not dancing. You are making space. 1 step back. 1 cut to the arm. 1 to the leg. Then you run and call the neighbors. You train not to look brave. You train to get your people safe. You set the axe down and pick up the spear. A cheap tool, they say in old lines. Easy to make. Easy to fix. True. You like the reach. You want the way the ash shaft bends and springs back. You brace the butt in a post and practice short thrusts into a sack stuffed with peat moss. The peat sighs. Your breath matches. In a plain fact you can feel in the wood. Shields are round and made of boards. Often linden. Light enough to lift. Strong enough to turn a blow. An iron boss sits at the center, your hand grips behind it. You lift your shield now. It smells like fat and pine smoke. Rawhide laces bite the rim. You angle it and hear the tap of wood on wood as you test a parry against the doorframe. You nod. Good. You shift your weight and run a small drill. Shield up. Step left. Thrust. Step back. Breathe. You laugh at yourself and call it your fitness plan. Chop fit year 870. No fees. No mirrors. Just wood that obeys. Joke number 2 makes the cat blink from the beam like it approves your form. You show the older ones how to stand behind you and hold the broom like a staff. Hands apart. Push, don't swing. Eyes open. Mouth shut. They nod severely, then try to look fierce. They look like kittens trying to hiss at the sun. You still feel proud. Fierce learns slowly. That is fine. You hang the horn by the door. It is only a ram's horn polished smooth, but it carries sound far. You try one soft note. The yard answers with echoes off the byre. You touch the horn again, thinking about neighbors doing the same. One call for watch, two for fire, three for blades. The calls are old and simple. They work. You check each latch on the animal pens. You run a wedge under the far gate. You move the ladder that would help a thief more than you. You hang it inside, high. A thief can climb, no need to give him a hand. You set iron near soft places. Shears under the pillow for night scares, your grandmother swears. A small nail at the threshold. A knife on the shelf by the door. Iron has a job in this world. Cuts meat. It also cuts fear. Quirky? Yes. But your sleep thanks you. Historians still argue whether shield maidens fought in large numbers or lived mostly in saga tales. They still argue whether the famous warrior grave at Birka proves a common role or a rare case. You stand inside the talk and keep training anyway because you do not need a banner to raise a shield for your door. You remember a loud story from the last thing. A woman said she chased raiders with a rake and a short prayer. She showed a scar on her arm like a small white fish. People gasped and cheered. You thought about the parts she did not say. The fear. The shaking after. The long night that followed. Loud stories blur the edges. You keep yours quiet and sharp. You take the knife from your belt and sharpen it on the whetstone. Small circles. Light touch. You test the edge on a scrap of leather. It bites clean. You oil the blade and set it back in its sheath. You hand the second knife to the older child and show the rules again. Cut away the sheath when you move. Never play chopsticks with knives. The child rolls their eyes at the joke and then repeats the rules word for word, which is the point. A plain, true thing in the law. At the thing, blades stay sheathed. Draw steel there and you pay a fine. Draw blood and you pay more. You heard that with your ears. Keeps talk possible. It keeps hands warm for work. You carve a simple ward on the door lintel with the point of your knife. Not a fancy sign, just a mark, The wood curls and falls. The door looks back at you, calm and sure. You set a small stone at the sill to jam under the bar if a wind gust rattles it. The house feels like a box you packed well. You drill the older ones on the inside plan. If someone pounds on the door, do not open it. You take the little ones to the low shelf by the hearth. You slip through the back byre door and out the small gate to the field if you have to. You grab the horn and blow twice for help. You speak it, then practice it, then repeat it. No drama, just steps. You step outside and walk around the fence. The day is iron gray but calm. You fix a loose picket with a quick lash of rope. You lay thorn branches in a gap where sheep and men both love to squeeze. You call it your nope hedge and snort once. Joke number 3 earns a look from the goose, which means language. You pull the old iron cauldron a thumb closer to the door. Not for soup tonight, for boiling water in case of an emergency. Steam is a tool. It makes a distance. It buys time. You hope you do not need it. You set a bucket full near the hearth anyway. A neighbor's boy runs up wild-eyed, then stops and bows because you taught him that. He says he saw a shape on the path at dusk. You take a breath and hand him a cup. You ask calm questions. Tall or small? Alone or two? Cart or none? He says small, two, and no cart. You nod. You walk to the yard edge and look. 2 women and a bundle, it turns out, tired and late. You wave them in. You feel your heart step down 3 rungs. You tuck those travelers by the fire, feed them a corner of bread and a spoonful of warm skyr. You slide the axe back on its peg. You keep the spear by the post a while longer. You whisper. You make up beds on the bench. You laugh once at their bad luck with mud. They laugh louder. That is its shield. A simple, strong fact lives at the center of this. Farms like yours keep watch and keep tools sharp. Axes and spears sit in homes, not just halls. Women and men both train their hands to split wood and stand in a doorway. The law tries to slow the fight. The house attempts to slow fear, both matter. You check the rope at the east corner again. The knot holds. You trace the rowan sprig with your thumb. The red bark glows in the dim. You do not know if it brings trouble. You know it stiffens your back. That is enough. You sit on the bench with your shield leaned against your knee. You listen to the wind in the thatch. You hear the geese shuffle. You breathe. Your hands smell like pine, tallow, and a little iron. You look at the straw dummy by the byre and promise it another lesson tomorrow. You look at the door and promise it you will keep it bright. You slide the horn back on its peg and run a cloth over the axe head. You hum the ward song without meaning to. You touch your keys and hear their little chime. Metal at the hip, wood at hand, fire at heart. That is your whole plan. It is small. It works. You bank the fire low. You set a lamp in the window slit, one small light for friends and you. Outside, night gathers like wool and pulls close. Inside, the house holds. The cat makes one sweep of the rafters, finds no mouse this time, and settles. You smile and whisper, "Stand watch, Inspector." The cat closes its eyes and pretends to be a bat. You pull a blanket over your legs and let your shoulders drop. You are not brave all the time. You are ready enough. That is the truth you sleep on. You rub your shoulders where the shield sat and feel that dull ache wake up. Time for the house clinic. You set a small pot by the quiet side of the fire. You drop in a strip of willow bark. You add a thumb of ginger you traded for last summer. You pour water until it hums. The scent turns warm and sharp. You taste a sip with a careful tongue. Bitter. Good. You add honey to smooth it. Your arms smile a little. You lay herbs on the board. Yarrow for minor cuts. Plantain for bites and stings. Thyme for coughs. You crush a pinch in your palm. The oils rise and bloom. The room smells like a tiny forest. You smash some garlic with the flat of your knife. A clove is placed in a small pot with water and honey. Cough syrup, farm style. You warm it slowly. You keep it away from the cat. The cat hates garlic and loves knocking things over. Classic cat. Plain truth sits in the steam. Willow bark eases aches. Honey helps wounds. Yarrow calms bleeding. These plants grow in the old world and on Earthable, and then people used them. People now still do. You stir a salve pot you set earlier. Tallow and a bit of beeswax melt and marry. You stir and drop in a pinch of calendula petals. The petals turn the fat a soft gold. You add a breath of pine tar. Not much, just enough to keep edges clean. You pour the salve into a small horn cup to cool. It will slide into cracked knuckles like a promise. You check the traveler's feet. One heel is rubbed raw. You wash the spot with warm water and a clean lint. You dab honey. You tie a soft scrap of linen over it. You wrap the foot in a thin wool square. You nod. She nods back and looks ready to cry and nap at the same time. You squeeze her hand and pass her the willow drink. The heat moves into her face. The tears leave. The nap stays. You line up the combs. Big ones for tangles. The small, tight one for the tiny invaders no one wants to talk about. You sit everyone near the door for light. You set a bowl nearby. You part your hair with a blunt bone pin. You look close. You sigh. You start. The fine comb sings its thin song. You dip the teeth into the bowl after each pass. You crush what falls with your thumb. You toss the bowl into the coals when you are done. Heat is your partner tonight. You tell a silly story while you work. Lice hate laughter. Maybe. Joke number 1 keeps spirits up, even if it does not change biology. You drop a few sprigs of juniper on the fire. The smoke turns sharp and clean. You hang cloaks on pegs above the hearth beam for a spell. The warmth chases the damp. The smoke walks through the cloth and asks small things to leave. You shake the hems and hear grit hit the floor. You sweep it away with a birch broom. The cat follows the broom like it is a mouse with a schedule. Here is a fact you can hold in your hand. Combs and knit combs show up everywhere in graves and houses from this time. Bone, antler, wood. Men carried them. Women did too. People cared about how they looked and felt. People liked clean hair and tidy faces. Saturday even carries the name Laugardagger later on. Washing day. A whole day for soap and steam. You pick a twig toothpick from the little grooming bag and clean a back tooth. You hand a pick to the bigger kid and remind him to be gentle. You show him the ear scoop, tiny and clean. No deep dives. Only the shell. He nods like a doctor. The dog tilts its head, which is very good bedside manner. You wash your hands with warm water and ash lye. The lye slides grease right off. You rinse well. You rub a little goose fat into your skin to prevent it from cracking. Clean, soft, ready. You may not have a spa, but you do have a plan. Joke number 2 gets a grin from the older girl, who loves the idea of a farm spa and bad singing. Historians still argue whether most farm homes kept a weekly bath year-round or if that rhythm mainly lived in towns and warmer months. They still say whether linen underclothes were common for poor farms or saved for high days. You live the answer this way: wash when you can. Wear linen when you have it. Wool the rest. You set a big tub near the fire. You pour in hot water from the pot. You add cold water with a bucket. You sniff. Good. Not too hot. You toss in a handful of sweet gale and a thumb of spruce tips. The steam smells like a forest that agreed to be your bathhouse. You wash the youngest child first. Quick. Gentle. Hair lasts so it doesn't bite. You wrap him fast and hand him to the warm lap waiting by the hearth. You wash your hair with ash water. Not every day. Today, yes. You rinse with a bit of vinegar you made from crab apples. The tang wakes up your scalp. You finger comb the hair and then use the big comb while it is damp. You rub a drop of oil into the ends. The smoky eyeliner you got this morning still lingers. Free makeup. You wink at yourself in the water and laugh. You set the tub aside and move to the mending bench. Light is going soft. You push the bench close to the slit window and the warm side of the fire. You lay out a tunic with an elbow worn thin. You lay out breeches with a knee like a small window to the skin. You match wool to wool. You pick a bright blue patch for the knee and a soft brown for the elbow. The blue makes you happy. The brown will fade over time. You slide a smooth stone under the thin spot. Your darning egg. It is only a river stone, warm and oval, but it makes a perfect base. You weave a new thread over and under the old, tight and neat. The worn place disappears into lines that hold like a tiny bridge. You hum with the weave. The thread obeys when you sing. You know this now. You stitch a torn hem with tiny running stitches. You backstitch the stress points. You add a patch inside the shoulder where the shield rubbed. Consider adding a second patch for next week. Prefix the trouble. Future you will clap. You pull out the bright trim you saved. Tablet woven bands. Reds. Yellows. A little blue. You choose a strip and lay it along the neckline of the tunic. The winter is long. Color is courage. You stitch the band with careful hands. The edge lifts the whole garment from plain to proud. The child who fits will run and glow like a small banner. A plain thing the ground says again and again. Those bright bands are real. Tablet woven edges live in graves and bogs. They hang from brooches. They frame necks and cuffs. They last when the rest rots away. You like that. Joysticks. You check the straps on your apron dress. One has torn a thread near the loop. You fix it tight. You polish the oval brooches with a bit of soft wool until they shine. You run the pin through the cloth, feeling the click of metal and the strength it provides. You thread a cord through the top seam of a linen smock. The cord will gather around the neck and sit smoothly. You enjoy these small, clean jobs. They are puzzles that do not fight back. You pull out a sock you made with nail binding, the heel thins. You add a patch in tight loops. The work feels like whispers. Loop, reach, pull, knot. You leave the sock by the warm stones for the night. Dry feet save days. You heat the iron needle in the flame and press it fast along a wool seam. Heat scares tiny things. It also flattens stitches. The seam lies down and behaves. You smile and move to the next one. The cat tries to sit on the new patch while it is still warm. Of course. You lift the cat and say, "Quality control later." The cat yawns and agrees. Joke number 3 purrs. You hang the washed linen near the roof, away from smoke but near heat. It will be dry by morning if luck holds. You shake each piece once to soften the fibers. You run your hand down a sleeve and think of arms lifting milk pails and shields. Clothes learn us. We learn them back. You rub a slice of soap on a stubborn stain on a cuff. The soap is simple, fat and ash, hard as a small stone. You wet it and scrub the spot with a small brush. The mark lightens. You rinse, then press the water out in the folds of a towel. You hang it and forget it until it taps your shoulder tomorrow with clean pride. You tuck a tiny amber bead into a pouch for a friend who aches in the damp. She swears rubbing it warms her hand. Could be charm. Maybe it is the heat. Maybe both. You like how it feels in your palm. It holds light. It holds stories. You set a clean comb by each sleeping place. You set the ear scoop and toothpicks back in their little bag. You tie the bag to a peg where hands can find it. You teach that care is daily, not grand. You make care easy at arm's length. People use what they can reach. You pour the last of the willow drink into your cup. You sip slowly. Your head clears. Your shoulders drop. The light goes thin and sweet. The house glows like a coal under ash. Outside, night stacks. Inside, thread crosses thread and plans cross plans, and you feel the day knit to itself. You fold the bright trimmed tunic and lay it at the foot of the bed. You roll the mended breeches and slide them into the chest. You oil the brooch pins and wrap them in a scrap of linen. You turn the comb teeth down. You love that last neat detail for no good reason. Neat is its quiet song. You bank the fire a little. Not yet asleep. Not yet. Feast. Soon. You rub salve into your knuckles and feel the sting turn calm. You breathe and listen. Drips from rain still fall from the eaves. Crack from the hearth. Slow breath from children. A twitch of a dog's paw as it chases a rabbit in a soft dream. Your own heart even and sure. The house clinic closes its doors. The tailor's bench goes quiet. The night leans in. You lean back. You pull the long board from the wall and set it on trestles. You wipe it with a damp cloth and a little salt. The grain in the wood shines like water. You lay a clean cloth. You set lamps where shadows sit thick. The light turns honey soft. You hang a few green sprigs in the rafters. Not for show, for scent and cheer. The rowan at the gate still glows red. You smile at that brave little stripe of color. You open the big pot. Barley goes in. Dried turnip. A knob of butter with your cross mark. A strip of smoked lamb you saved for nights like this. A handful of cabbage. Pinch of thyme. You stir. The steam kisses your cheeks. Your stomach knocks on the door of your spine. HR Hearth Resources sends a memo. Please add seconds. You promise nothing. Joke number 1 gets a laugh from the neighbor girl, who stirs like a tiny captain. You open the ale tub. You brewed last week. You malted barley on a clean floor. You turned it with your hands until it sprouted sweet. You dried it by smoking. You mashed it with hot water and a bed of juniper twigs. You added a scoop of last brew's froth, your barm. It woke the whole tub like a rooster. Now it sits bright and a little wild. You draw off a jug and taste foam with the mercy of a queen. Good. Warm. Alive. A plain fact sits in that jug. People here brew ale at home. They use barley. They flavor it with sweet gale and juniper. Hops show late and not everywhere. Historians still argue whether hops were common on small farms in this age or if they stayed rare until later. You do not argue. You pour. Neighbors slip in with the evening. A woman brings a loaf shaped like a boar. It is brown and proud, with 2 clove eyes and an apple in its bread mouth. If the farm cannot spare a pig, the loaf accepts the oaths. Old ways bend. They still hold. Hands rest on the bread's back. Promises get said. I will mend the net by thaw. I will share seed with esker if the spring bites. I will keep my tongue when my temper wakes. You keep yours simple. I will retie the east rope when the moon tips. Everyone laughs and nods because they know you already did. It still counts. You set out bowls. Stew goes in. Bread follows. Butter. Cheese. A plate of smoked fish. A dish of skyr with a trail of honey like a path through snow. Children carry trenchers like small kings. The dog sits by the door, remembering that he is on guard. The cat checks each plate like a taxman, then finds a warm lap and claims it. Of course, you pass horns for toasts. Simple at home, big in the halls. You lift your horn and say the old words, for year and peace, for as OG fur in the old mouth. You drink, the room answers. A second toast goes to kin far away. You say their names. The names feel warm on your tongue. A third goes to the ones under the hill. The fire leans in. A fourth does good work and is quick at mending. You grin. Work laughs and clinks back. A true thing sits brave on your board. Big feasts in halls call this round a sumble, toast circle. Let's rise. A special cup, the bragerful, goes with bold words. You keep the shape of that right even here, small and snug. Historians still argue whether farm nights like this were formal or loose. You use what fits. You leave what does not. After bowls, games. You pull the nafatiful board from the chest. The grid is carved in the lid. The pieces are bone, smooth from hands. The king sits in the middle. His men guard him. The other side presses in. You teach the rules again. The king tries to break out of a corner. The children gasp when a clever trap closes. Strategy tastes sweet even in winter. A plain fact sits under your palm. Boards and taffel pieces turn up in graves and houses. People play. People always play. Someone plucks a lyre with 5 strings. The little harp sounds like water on stones. The tune is small and bright. A man keeps rhythm with a wooden spoon on a bowl. The beat is a soft heart. You sing a rune song you learned from your mother. Easy words. Strong bones. The room hums it back. You toss in a kenning and watch eyes light. Whale-road for sea. Battle sweat for blood. You keep it mild for small ears. The poem lives in your mouth and steps from your lips like a warm animal. You tell a riddle to keep minds quick. I run and run but never move. I talk but have no mouth. I show the world and swallow it whole. What am I? The children shout guesses. Fire, cat, troll. The older man grins. A stream, he says. You bow. He preens. You like a good riddle. You pocket another for later. You pass a small bowl of angelica stems you candied in honey last season. They taste green and sweet, and they're made with care. You set out dried apples on strings for a game. Bite without hands. Everyone looks silly. Everyone wins. The dog tries and fails and gets a pity bite. Joke number 2 bows to the dog's effort. A quirky winter joy peeks in when the ice lies flat on the pond. Some nights, people strap bones to their feet and slide. Skates from a cow's leg. Smooth and quick. You picture tomorrow's wind and decide. Maybe, maybe not. Your knee will vote in the morning. Someone asks for the story about the whale that sang like a horn. You tell the short version. You keep the whale kind and the ending soft. You thread in 3 actual names from your time. You tuck a moral under the bread. Be brave. Be kind. Tie your rope twice. The room leans in and then leans back with a sigh. You set a small dish of ale on the floor by the door. For the ones you cannot see. For luck, not fear. The cat drinks it and proves your theory. You laugh and give the cat water instead. The cat looks offended. The room chuckles. Joke number 3 makes even the geese murmur. You look at the board bread. The oaths on it sit heavy and good. In some places, they lay hands on a real boar at Yule and swear. The Sonargolter people say a valid word in old lines. You chose bread this year. The promises still shine. Historians still argue whether that oath was kept in every farm or just in a few halls. You know what counts. You hold a promise that fits your hands. The night grows deep. Lamps sag low. You pass a slight birch tar chew to the boy who asks. He makes a face, then chews like a hero. People crowd the warm side and let the cold edges fall away. The door remembers the rowan. The rope at the east corner remembers its knot. The geese remember to sleep with one eye open. The house hums like a big, kind drum. You slip a new log on the fire. Not a grand Yule log. Not a special piece with a name. Just a fat, dry round. It burns slowly and brightly. Spark turns to light. Light turns to quiet. The long night puts its arm around the roof and holds it that way for hours. You are inside that arm. You rest into it. You watch the older women spin while they listen. The spindle hums like it did at dawn. Wool runs smoothly from the distaff to the twist. The rhythm says we are here. We keep moving even when the world is dark. We make wind for ships while the storm sleeps on the other side of the hill. You smile and feel the room lift. Just a little. You pass around the bright trim tunic you finished. Hands touch the edge and nod. Color does its job. A small boy holds the sleeve to his cheek like a cat. You let him. You want him to remember this softness when the wind bites in deep March. Someone mentions the Yule goat. A straw figure. A prank. A gift. A beast that sneaks and brings cheer. You have seen one on a shelf, grinning wide. Historians still argue whether the goat walked back to this age or if it trotted in later. You do not mind where it comes from. You're like a goat that gives instead of eats. You end the night with one last round. Quiet. For safe roads. For full stores. For warm hands. You drink. You wipe the board with a wet cloth and a sleepy smile. You tuck leftovers where the cat cannot hold a feast of its own. You hand a slice of boar bread to each guest. A promise in a pocket tastes better than any candy. Coats go on, hands wave. The door sighs. The night takes back the yard. You stack bowls by the bucket. You cover the ale tub. You bank the fire so it glows, not roars. The house breathes slow and deep. Winter is long. You have laughter, stew, stories, and a significant cat. You have patience, too. It lives here now, in the seams, in the warp, in the way you smile when the lamp goes soft. You stack bowls by the bucket and wipe the board one last time. The cloth picks up crumbs and stories. You fold it neatly. You lift the small chest lid and slide in the bright trim tunic so curious paws cannot claim it. The house exhales. You answer with a nod. You light the little fat lamp and trim the wick to a thin, calm glow. The lamp is stone with a lip for oil and a slot for the twist of moss. Finds like this sit in museums now, but you hold yours in a warm hand and call it friend. The flame lowers its voice. You lower yours to match. You count the quiet wealth. Barley sacks. 1, 2, 3.5. What's 1? Dried fish coils, 2 good, 1 small. Salt block solid. Butter tubs. 3 with your crossed mark. 1 already with a spoon's dent. Cheese, 1 firm, 1 soft. Skier, set and smooth. You touch each and make a notch on your tally stick. You mark a small cross for what you gave tonight. A neighbor will pay back with hay or help or a sharp eye on your fence. The stick does not lie. It only listens. You tie the salt tighter. You wrap the silver bits in cloth and tuck them deep. You pick up the small purse with weights and close it before you think of spending again. Your hand slides over the chest lid. The wood hums like it is full of bees. You lock the chest and feel the click in your ribs. You count peat by the door. 2 stacks near. 4 outside by the shed. Dry on the top. Damp on the bottom. Enough to turn the worst week warm. You check kindling. You check the bucket. You check the lamp oil. You check because sleep is softer when numbers are firm. You walk the byre. Heads counted. Latches tight. The drain slope is clear. The goat glares, then yawns, then forgives you for everything. The sheep breathe in woolly waves. The cow blows a warm fog on your sleeve and signs the night's paperwork with her nose. HR, Hearth Resources, closes the office and tells you to go to bed. You agree for once. Joke number 1 clocks out. You bank the fire. You rake coals into a snug hearth and lay turf over like a blanket. You leave a small mouth for air. Fire needs to breathe the way babies do. You tap the clay rim and listen. The ember glows like an eye that trusts you. Tomorrow it will open wider when you ask. You set the bar across the door and pull the rope snug to the floor peg. You wedge the sill stone in place. You hang the horn back in easy reach. You look once at the rowan sprig. Red bark holds the small light. You try the latch and feel the good, solid no of it. You set a crumb of bread and a thumb of ale on the shelf by the post. You say thanks to the ones who keep corners kind. You touch the post with 2 fingers. You touch the tiny hammer. You say, keep the wind fair and the roof tight. That is all. No big asks, just steady ones. You slip off your belt. The keys chime once and then rest on their peg. They sound like a tiny bell saying good night. They have earned it. You have 2. Joke number 2. The keys demand better benefits, like more pockets and fewer stairs. You promise a review. You brush your hair with the good comb. Teeth glide. You ease out the day. You rub salve into your knuckles and into the sore place where the shield sat. The skin drinks and the sting lets go. You pull on dry nail-bound socks from the warm spot by the hearthstones. They hug your feet and make you feel rich. You lie down on the bench by the wall. Straw rustles under the wool mattress. It smells like fields and summer. A child curls in the bend of your knees. Another presses a warm foot to your calf. The baby sleeps in the hanging cradle and moves his lips like he is tasting the last of the story. The dog lies by the door and snores like a small bellows. The cat chooses your ribs and begins a slow, smug purr. Of course, a plain fact curls up here too. Many longhouses lay sleeping benches along the walls, with people close and the hearth as the core. Animals fill the far end when cold bites. Heat and breath keep the house alive. You live inside that design and feel its sense each night. You lay the shears under your pillow, points shut. Iron bites fear. You know this is old and odd. You also know you sleep better, and that is all the test you need. Some swear you should flip your pillow if a bad dream finds you, to turn its luck. You did it once. It helped. Or you woke up. Either way, Corky wins a little peace. Historians still argue whether people here slept in 2 shifts, with a waking hour in the night for talk and small tasks, or if they dropped at dark and rose at dawn without a break. You only know this. When the baby wakes, you do too. When quiet comes, you take it and hold it gently. You ease the lamp lower. Shadows melt to soft. The rowan near the gate makes a memory shape on the wall. You press your hand over your child's hand. You breathe. In. The house breathes with you. Wood ticking, thatch whispering, geese muttering one last note outside like night shift managers counting heads. Joke number 3 gives you a grin in the dark. You untie one knot from the cord by the door. One day down for the trip you planned. One day closer to what comes. You close your eyes and see a sail you helped make, and the loom waits like stones by a river. You see a butter pat with your mark. You see a key in your hand. Work is a prayer with edges. You say it and then let it go. You whisper the last words. For years and peace. For safe roads. For full bowls. For laughter when the wind is mean. You press a kiss to a warm forehead. You press your palm to the post. You turn on your side and let the coals paint your lids orange. The cat purrs. The dog snores. The baby sighs. The house settles. You drift as the longhouse drifts, slow and sure, like a boat that knows the shore in its bones. The coals fold smaller in the bed of ash, and the room grows gentle around that slow glow, and you feel the way warmth can hold a space even when the air is thin and the wind passes outside with soft hands. And it is easier now to let your breath lengthen, to let your shoulders ease down, and to let your thoughts wander like sheep finding the calm edge of a field. The cat's weight becomes a pleasant stone. The dog's little snores become waves. The tiny clicks of timber become crickets that forgot it is winter. And your own heart takes a softer step as the tasks of the day drift farther back, and the lists untie themselves, one by one. In this light, the keys on their peg look like stars at rest. The loom is a quiet tree. The churn is only a round shadow by the wall, and even the axe is just a clean line asleep in its place. And you can tell yourself that there will be time for all these tools, but not now, not in this easy, slow hour. You picture a sail you have not finished yet, and you see it in a summer sky so wide it hums, and you feel a hand in yours, small and warm, and you let that picture hold you because there is nothing else you need to hold, not for a while. You do not need to carry the house when the house is carrying you, and the rowan at the gate can keep its own watch now, and the geese will argue with the moon on their own time. Let the longhouse shrink to a soft breath. Let the hearth sink to a single ember. Let your eyelids ask for sleep and get a kind answer. And if a thought nudges you, give it a seat by the fire and tell it you will visit in the morning, and then let it drowse. All the roads you walk today will be there when light returns. For now, it is enough to rest in this small, warm world you made, with the quiet work of your hands stitched into every beam and spoon and song, and to let the night be kind, and to be very kind to yourself in it.